Good evening. We're about to start this meeting of the Sumner County Board of Education. Before we do, I'm going to stand for a moment of silence and follow that by the pledge of allegiance to our country's flag. Anyone who'd like to join me, please feel free to do so. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. First item on the agenda is roll call. Mr. Johnson, you got the roll, I'm sure. All righty, thank you, sir. Next item on the agenda is approval of regular agenda as presented.
Motion to approve.
Second from Mr. Daniels, second by who? By Mr. Wise. Any discussion? Mr. King.
Yeah, I just want to, I want to make a motion to remove item 3 under new business. And the reason I want to do that is because we've, just going back to what we've discussed on this, this policy before, we had quite an extensive discussion in February or in January about the policy in question was the November 14th policy, and that got deferred. There were no actions taken on that except to defer or to postpone to a certain time, and I think it was to a study session. Well, it came back up in February, and that policy was tabled by Mr. Lancaster, and I believe the motion was to table that pending until the end of the legislative session at the state.
Mr. King,
So,
before you go further, we need a second.
Second.
Motion and a second from Mr. Daniels. Now we're in discussion.
oh, my bad. Well,
Mr. King.
I thought there was a second. So my point is that motion is still in consideration by this body, and so what's happened is we've brought in another policy here under new business that has new language in it that we've not adopted or amended, and we're still working with the policy from November 14th that was amended, and it's still in consideration. So again, you can't have two policies that are germane to the same topic in consideration at the same time. That's out of order. So I think we should just remove this item, and if we want to add the November 14th policy to under unfinished business, we could do that. I think that might require a second motion, but my initial motion here is to remove item 3 under new business, and I still move.
Ms. King, Ms. Hawkins?
What is being proposed today is a revision based on discussions prior to today. If you take into consideration the final exam exemptions, we had 3 policies at one time that we were considering. So saying that we're having 2 policies under consideration now, we don't. We currently have 1 policy in place, and we are discussing making revisions to that to bring it up to current desires of the principals and librarians who have met with me, and we've gone over extensively to craft it to meet the needs now. Teachers, librarians, principals want a clear roadmap of what to do in the event of a book challenge. Furthermore, legislation goes on and on and on and on, and we may be into next year before we have policy. As I recall, the first 2 years I was serving on this board, almost every voting session we made, it was brought before the board to vote on new policy due to changes in the state policy. And so if there is something that changes what this policy calls for, we would do just like we did then and make revisions to bring it up to state standards. Jeremy, is that correct? Didn't we, on many occasions, vote to change our policy to meet state standards?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. So I would very much like to keep this policy revision on the agenda. It's time to get this done. I have made revisions based on the discussions that we've had. And frankly, I think we're all ready to be done with it. We don't want to be messing with it anymore. It's time to respect the librarians and the principals who have asked for this change. I've met with them on many occasions over the months. This is a product of hard work, and I feel like it's time. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Hawkins. Ms. Hawkins, Mr. King?
Yeah, and I understand that, but we have to do it with the proper procedure. And the motion that we voted on by Mr. Lancaster in February was to table to lay on the table until the end of the legislative session. And that was to lay on the table with the intent of bringing it back and resume where we left off. And that was a 10-to-1 vote. And that's what I thought we were doing. If I thought it was now laying on the table, according to Robert's rules, does not kill it. That does not kill the motion or the question before the body. That would be a postponed indefinitely motion. That would, according to Robert's rules. So this was a table motion. It is not dead, and the intent was to bring that back, and that was actually the motion we voted on by Mr. Lancaster. And I understand we want to get this done. The other side of that is it was done. There was a policy that was voted on in May, and it was not unanimous, but it was voted on after many months of discussion, and it got brought back. And so we just need to get it under the right procedure. I'm not saying let's not pass something. I just think we need to follow the rules, follow the order, and what we voted on was to bring it back after the legislative session. So the other thing is once we're working on a policy, we're making amendments, we're working together on it. We just can't set that aside for a new revision. This is not English class. You don't go back and create a new draft to give to your professor. This is an ongoing work of this body, and so any revisions have to go through the proper channels of amending and getting amendments passed. And so this policy today is under new business. It's a new policy. It's under new business, so that means it's a brand new policy. Otherwise, it would be under unfinished business. There's some future. It's got new language in it. So, if we want that language, we have to properly amend the policy we were working on previously. So, again, my motion is that we remove that item, and if we want to add and make another motion to amend the agenda to add the November 14th policy back to under unfinished business, I may be supportive of that, but I think step one is we need to remove this item. So again, that's my motion. Thanks.
Okay, Ms. Andrews?
Yes, so I do recall that discussion that we had, and that we were wanting to see what the legislature was going to do. My understanding is that we are days away from them closing out session, that there are not bills currently, like the bills that they are going to go through are there. This is not part of that, from what I've seen. Mr. Lancaster, I know you're following it closer probably than most of us. Is that correct? That there's not been?
Ms. Lancaster?
There, as far as I know, the BOLSO amendment, the one that I was concerned about, has been, the last I saw, it was laid on the table until after budget, tomorrow is one more, I mean, it could be brought back, I don't know. The other one that I was concerned about, and I think that the overall, there's another one that basically says, it gives, the Senate passed, and it gives standing to anyone. The policy has to follow the state law. So I would want anything that we pass, I would think we would need to make sure that Mr. Presnell checks off and says, hey, that meets all the different requirements. But as far as I don't know that there's anything else out there, but there's a ton of behind the budget bills that are being discussed, and they could, always bring something.
Right.
So I don't know.
So saying that, I think that, as has been discussed, there's always an ongoing discussion and things getting changed and added and whatnot. And I appreciate all the work that Ms. Hawkins has done. I think this is something that, cliche, we have beat the horse has resurrected, and we are beating it again. It's time to put the horse to rest. And I do agree that's something that we need to address. We need to move on. We need to let our principals and staff and parents and everyone know what the process is, how we're going to do it. And I disagree. You do not always have to go through amendments and so forth with policies. You can say, if there are changes, you can say, hey, we're going to replace this policy with a completely new policy. That is legal and appropriate. And if that's what Ms. Hawkins has brought forward, then I think that it's prudent that we go ahead and discuss that tonight. Let's get it done. Let's gavel on it and let's move on. We need this has been going on, I feel like now, at least a year, if not close to 18 months. It's time to move on.
Thank you, Senator Reese. Mr. Gregory. Mr. Gregory.
Oh, excuse me. Ms. Hawkins, did you meet with librarians across the county for this?
I met with over 20 librarians from all over the county.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Gregory. Ms. Hawkins.
I have notes on the procedure on how this policy has made its way through the board. On November 7th, 2023, the proposed policy revision was submitted as a study session. On November 14th, the proposed policy revision with changes pursuant to the prior discussion on November 7th was submitted at the regular meeting. From the meeting video, the main motion to approve the proposed revised policy upon first reading was seconded, and then Mr. Lancaster made a motion to amend to allow complainants to be board members. That was seconded, and there was a discussion. That amendment passes, but the main motion is still on the floor. Back to the main motion. Mr. King made a motion to amend to strike language allowing a student to serve on the Materials Review Committee. That was seconded. There was discussion. There was a vote, and that amendment passed, but the main motion was still on the floor. Back to the main motion. Mr. Lancaster made a motion to amend the appeals process to allow the board to remove challenged material from all schools, not just the school where the challenged material is located. That was seconded. There was a discussion. There was no vote on the amendment. Then Chairman Brewer made a motion to defer to January. When we deferred to the next meeting, Mr. Lancaster immediately called to table the whole thing. So as far as we're concerned, there was never a vote to approve the amendment. As far as we're concerned, the main policy is still the main policy. There was never a vote to approve my policy revision. So there's nothing on the floor right now. And what I'm bringing forward is a proposal, just like Ms. Andrews and you proposed for the test exemptions. I think there were 3 proposals that we were looking at. So as far as amending a paper or amending a policy, yes, you go through drafts, you discuss, you make changes. That's what I did. And so I made changes pursuant to these discussions. And that's what's in this policy I'm presenting today. So as far as following the rules, following how this goes, the main motion to amend was never approved. So this is brand new. This is starting over as far as I can tell from my review of the videos and the minutes. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Hawkins. Mr. King.
Well, and that's what I was saying. It's going back to the drawing board, but we've already been working on a policy. So, and that policy was tabled pending the state legislature.
Sharon,
And
point of order. I believe we've discussed a lot of this, and right now we're supposed to be voting on whether or not we're going to leave it on the agenda. I feel like continuing with this conversation is actually better on if we decide to keep it on the agenda or not, and that we need to move forward with voting on whether or not we're going to keep it on the agenda.
The motion is whether we're to leave it or not on the agenda. We need to keep the discussions for that. What are the merits of leaving it on the agenda? What are the merits of not leaving it on the agenda?
okay, that's what I'm discussing. I'm saying that right now, this is a new policy. We were working on another policy that got tabled, and procedurally, we need to bring that back to be in the. We voted on that we amended it in November, so we made amendments in November.
No,
So
we made amendments, but we never approved the final motion.
okay, and that brings me back to what I was discussing in February, is that if we make amendments and we're working on a policy and we defer it, because I believe it was Mr. Wise who deferred it in January, and then Mr. Lancaster tabled it in February. All of that, defer means to postpone to a certain time. According to Robert's rules, that means that the same motion, the same policy is still in consideration. It's technically still on the floor. We are just setting it aside temporarily. And when Mr. Lancaster tabled that, we all voted with the understanding that the policy as amended from November 14th.
It was not amended. It didn't get the vote. We never voted on it.
We voted on the amendments.
The amendments, but the main motion never was voted upon. So those went away.
Those amendments went away?
If the main motion did not, and perhaps, Mr. Presnell, perhaps you could tell us if the amendments were approved, but the main motion was never voted upon, do the amendments stand?
I was trying to check my notes on this to refresh my memory. But at the time it was deferred, I don't recall the month, but you were debating a November 10 version of the policy and a November 14 version. The motion to defer pertained to the November 14th policy proposal. There were some amendments to that made, and as I recall, passed, but the policy was never voted upon, and then it was deferred. My advice a couple of months after that was that we need to deal with the November 14 policy, and you can do that a number of ways. You can bring it back up and vote on it. You can vote to replace it. You can replace it with this proposed policy, but I do believe you need to deal with the November 14th policy that was deferred. So that needs to be voted upon one way or another.
So someone could say, make a motion, I would like to throw out the prior main motion policy on November 14th and replace it with the policy that's now on the table.
We need to bring that motion to approve the November 14 version back up for a vote. However that vote goes is how it goes. And it could be an up or down, it could be to add more amendments, it could be a lot of different things. It could be to replace it, it could be to vote it down and then consider a new policy. My point is that procedurally, that motion to approve the November 14 policy was deferred. It needs to be brought back and decided upon, regardless of what you do with this version that was on the agenda today.
Ms. Andrews?
Yeah, I'd like to call the question. I think we all know.
I don't think anybody was in the queue, so.
Yes is to leave it on the agenda, no is to take it off the agenda. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
leaving it on the agenda.
Can we provide the question, Mr. Chairman, and take a roll call vote, please?
I wasn't sure which way to vote that time.
Okay. If we vote yes, we're leaving it on the agenda. If we vote no, we're taking it off the agenda. And there's been a request for a roll call vote, and that's fine. Mr. Johnson?
All right. Ms. Hayes.
Yes.
Mr. Lancaster.
No.
Ms. Andrews.
Yes.
Mr. King.
No.
Ms. Hawkins.
Yes.
Mr. Daniels.
No.
Mr. Wise.
Yes.
Mr. Graham.
No.
Mr. Gregory.
Yes.
Mr. Lacy.
No.
Chairman Brewer.
Yes.
Right. Motion carries 6-5.
So we're leaving it on the agenda.
Yes, sir.
All right. Now, we're back to the main adoption of the regular agenda. So moved by Ms. Hayes. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Mr. Daniels. Any discussion on that? Seeing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed?
No.
Mr. Graham and Mr. King are no's. Next item on the agenda is adoption of consent agenda.
Motion to approve.
Motion approved by Mr. Daniels, second by Mr. Lancaster. Any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Seeing none, motion carries. Next item, consideration of minutes, discussion and interaction regarding the minutes of the March 26th regular meeting.
Motion to approve.
Motion approved by Mr. Gregory, second by Mr. Daniels. Any discussion?
What do you got against me?
What was your name again? Seeing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Seeing none, motion carries. Next item, discussion and interaction regarding the minutes of the April 9th special call meeting.
Motion to approve.
Motion approved by Mr. Wise, second by Mr. Lacy. Any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries. Next item on the agenda is the fun stuff. Recognition of the Liberty Creek High School Red Cheerleading Team. Who's in charge of that? Mr. King?
All right. Come on down, red team. Y'all can come right out here. All right, well, tonight the Sumner County Board of Education would like to recognize the Liberty Creek High School cheerleading red team. The red team is led by Coach Molly Green, who is also one of our great kindergarten teachers here in Sumner County Schools. This team had a remarkable season despite several setbacks such as injuries. But they won first place in every regular season competition this year, as well as they were the UCA Camp Champions, the UCA Space Center Regional Champions, the Middle Tennessee Cheer Classic Champions, the UCA Tennessee Extreme Regional Champions. They were second place at the National High School Cheerleading Championships. That's second in the nation, by the way. And they were top 6 at the TSSAA State Championship. And it is my understanding that their score at the Nationals had 0 deductions, which is a really big deal. Okay, and at the state competition, they had to compete against some much larger teams. Some of the teams had 20 or more cheer members, while they had 10, and they were also competing in a higher bracket or tier level than what they were designated as, and they were in the wrong category. So this was a tumbling category, and they're not a tumbling group. And even so, even with that, they still beat out 16 other cheer teams to place 6th out of 22 in the state championship. So, just to recap, they won first in every regular season competition, multiple UCA championships, 6th in the state against much higher level teams, and they won second place in the nation at the national championship. Will you join me tonight in congratulating the Liberty Creek Cheerleading Red Team? Congratulations. So let's give them another round of applause. Congratulations. Congratulations.
Chairman Brewer, may I?
Ms. Hayes.
Girls, would one of you, who's captain? Do you have a captain of the squad? Okay, could you tell us what your logo on the back of your shirt? Tell us about that.
So it's L-A-L-A.
You go to the microphone.
Oh.
Right there.
Oh, okay. So it says LALLA, which stands for Live and Love Like Aaliyah. And Aaliyah was one of our teammates, and it inspires us every day. Every time I put on this t-shirt, I'm inspired to live and love like Aaliyah and to just be the person she was, because she was such an amazing athlete and teammate and friend, and I love her.
And Grit was her.
Grit was her go-to,
Yes,
like,
right.
word, like, that inspired her, and she would always use it to inspire the team, and it was really uplifting.
I'm glad you all have it on your shirt.
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you, ladies. All right, next item on the agenda is reports from the director.
Yes. A couple of quick ones, and then we'll get into what I wanted to share tonight. First, you have an invitation on your desk. Teacher of the Year banquet. You don't have one?
Well, we got last time.
Okay, you had one last time.
Yeah.
If you need the date and information, yeah, let us know. It's next week. But if you could RSVP to Vinci so we can make sure we've got tables and everything set up for you. So that'll be next Tuesday. So that's the first thing. Second thing, the legislature, I had a couple questions from parents, and I talked to Leader Lamberth about an hour ago. The legislature passed a law about teachers being able to be armed in school. The governor has not signed it, but I would anticipate that the governor will sign it. So I want to go ahead and just share. I've already gotten a lot of communication from parents, and of course there's a lot of stuff on social media. Basically, this law was passed under the request of a lot of rural districts. It gives us, it's not something that we are required to do. We're going to always take every step we can to make sure our kids are as safe as humanly possible. We have the #1 SRO division in the nation. We have great response time and relationships with local law enforcement. In fact, we had a drill or a test a few weeks ago, and police responded within 3 minutes of the panic alarm being hit. So we're in good shape. There would be a lot of things we would have to work through before we considered that, including insurance and different things like that. Where we are right now as a county, the best policy and the safest policy for us is to continue what we're doing, which is to rely upon our sheriff's department, our SROs, our local law enforcement. But we will continue to always study and look to see what's best and safest for kids. The law, if you read the fine print of the law or the details of the law, it requires an extensive amount of training to be able to carry in a school facility. But my recommendation, of course, was something that y'all want to take up at a later date, we absolutely can. But where we are right now, my recommendation is we feel quite confident with our relationship with our SROs, our presence of our SROs, our local law enforcement and first responders. We're in pretty good shape. So I just wanted to, I'm sure y'all have been getting a lot of questions and comments, and we'll probably, Mr. Johnson and I'll work on a statement that we'll send out in the next couple of days. But just want to go ahead and share that with y'all now. And if you have any questions, I'd be happy to answer those.
I got a question.
Yes, sir.
You know, we have a lot of rural schools ourselves, and sometimes our SROs are out. They don't have anybody there. This policy or this bill could be helpful in their schools. I would think it'd be a wise decision for us to look at this.
Yeah, I think we can absolutely look at it, Mr. Lacy. You know, I think the question would be, will we have anybody that met the criteria in those schools? All right, third, meetings. Okay, so next month is budget. We would like to request, without any objection, that we move the study session to May 14th. We need, you know, it's my first time through leading a budget. We've got a lot of moving parts with compensation, with capital and things like that. And every day that we can get, Miss Amanda Brown and her team have been working around the clock, getting everything into the queue to look at and for us to make some decisions and recommendations to put before you. So without objection, we would like to do May 14th. What we would like to do, what our recommendation is to have a 1-hour closed door safety presentation from 6 to 7, and then at 7 go into our budget study session. Miss Brown, Miss Katie Brown, I think she's got probably a 15, 20, 25-minute presentation that she can share with you to update on security and safety, and then we'll have plenty of time for questions, and then we can roll into budget. I think it's better, given the fact that we got to close doors. I think it makes sense for the convenience of citizens in Sumner County to do that first, and then meet on budget that'll be public, rather than have everybody here have to clear the room, and then I think that worked better for our citizens. So that would be, without objection, that would be my recommendation that we do that.
I didn't see, I was, Ms. Andrews, we'll let you go first.
I don't have a problem with that. My question is, because it's a budget workshop, does it fall under the same rules as a study session, so that it has to be done at 9? And if that's the case, do we feel like that 2 hours will give us ample time to go through and have enough questions, or do we need to vote at this meeting to, what am I trying to say? To suspend the rules to allow for that meeting to be longer, or do we need to consider coming early for that, whichever way? I just want to make sure that we have enough time to, you know, I don't want us to be in the middle of a budget and there being questions and so forth. I feel like there's going to be a lot there, and then us.
I think my recommendation there would be is I think it would be hard for people to get here earlier.
Okay.
I think if you wanted to take that action we'd have to ask if that's, I guess we could vote to suspend the rules tonight to allow the study session to continue to say 10 or something, but that'd be up to Mr. Brewer and y'all to deliberate that.
Okay, I think that, because obviously we can't vote to do that at the study session, so I don't want us to get in the middle of it and then go, oh, it's 9 o'clock and we have to be done, but we're not done.
Yeah.
So just if we can take that into consideration.
And we could always, you know, the reality is the 2012 Act requires us to have a budget to the County Commission in June. We want to try to follow that to the best of our ability, but if we hit a point where there's deliberation that we still feel like we need to do, we could have another budget meeting, you know, at another time if we needed to in May or even early June. I think we've always tried to get it done in May so that we could get it to the commission in time for Mr. Lawing to be able to look at it, to get it before the Education Committee and the Budget Committee of the Commission, for them to have time to deliberate.
Thank you, Ms. Andrews. Mr. Daniels?
Yeah, I was going to say, one other thing to consider, I know we've done in the past a couple of times, was, and I don't know what schedules would be, and maybe Mr. Johnson checking, but we occasionally met earlier in the day. I believe around lunchtime in the past. So that may be something to look at too. Again, I don't know what everybody's schedule would look like. Not saying we do that, but that may be something to consider. My second question would be, will the voting session still be on the 21st, 1 week later?
Yes.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Daniels. Mr. Lancaster?
That's actually my question, and I guess a little bit more my concern. I have no issue with doing the moving the study session back. I do somewhat hesitant only having a week, because I mean especially this budget with the the salary recommendation changes and everything else. There's just so much that and I feel like every year, well, I say every year, I've only done this, I guess this will be my second budget voting session, but last year I feel like, you know, I forgot something or we forgot something and we had to add it later, but just, I don't know if there's time on the calendar to, you know, with the already time constraints of a study session on the 14th, you know, is there any other option to, I guess, give us a little bit more time to think through that thing and get feedback and answer, or, you know, prepare some questions and that
Yeah,
type
I
of
mean,
thing.
I think that would be y'all's determination. We could do it the 28th. We could move the voting session to the 28th, but that's going to coincide with Memorial Day
I know,
weekend.
that's the other bad, you know, I don't know what the right answer there is. So.
I mean, I wonder, Mr. Lancaster, I guess my recommendation would be is if we hit a point where that the board just doesn't feel comfortable, you know, we don't have to vote on the 21st. We can get as far as we can. If we don't get there, we just wait. And
That's just like I say, that's my only hesitancy. I'm have no
right.
care one way or the other about the 14th.
Well, and part of the reason that we would like that other week is that we're gonna try to we've discussed we're gonna change the format of the way that we deliver the budget presentation. So we're gonna try to get. I mean, you know, we can't go into granularity on everything. We'll be here for 237 hours, but we're going to try to showcase like the big moves, talk about what it means.
I'm going to need to know what that $5 is on page 37.
Yeah.
You have to schedule that.
Yeah, you can.
Stamps. Yeah, but I mean, we will try to address as many. Yeah, I mean, I think, yeah, obviously we're going to know a lot of the questions are going to be around capital and compensation. But we'll try to put as many. You know, I mean, in fact, like Ms. Brown's been working around the clock to try to get all those addressed, because like you say, you know, when you make a big move like we're going to try to do on compensation, it elevates a whole lot of things that we've thought about, and then you begin to see some things that, you know, that have cropped up since January that they've been working on, that Mr. Ott and Ms. Brown have been working on to address.
Can I ask this then? Could we, I know normally we get a preview of it 3 days before.
Right.
Is there a chance we could get a preview copy or a draft copy earlier than that normal 3 or 4 days, so that we at least have a time to familiarize ourselves before the study session is what I'm saying. You know, we don't, of course, wouldn't be through board docs or whatever. We could just flip through.
I think we could probably, let me talk to Ms. Brown and see, like, I think we can get, I don't know if we'll be able to get the actual hard copy budget. I think that would be a heavy lift. That would basically put us in the same time frame that we're on right now.
But just like that summary, you know, basic summary.
Yeah, I don't see why we couldn't get a summary presentation.
Okay.
Yeah, just with the caveat that as we get in, there may be.
Oh yeah, if it changes $5.
Because I mean, honestly, I would rather get that out there, and then if there are changes that y'all want to make, it would give us a little bit more time to prepare that before we get to the 21st in the voting session. Yeah, I think we should be able to do that. I think that's right, Catherine. Yeah, and it may be, I think, Mr. Lancaster, I think what Ms. Brown was saying, it may be one of those things where we'll share it with you if you just have the understanding that you might get a revision on Saturday and a revision on, you know, to make tweaks and stuff, because you may see some things, we'll just go ahead and fix it before, so we can have, it'll be a little bit of a living document going into the study session, which is, I think is fine, because it's a study session, it's not a voting session. Okay, and then I want to take just a little bit as we roll on and talk about some of the accomplishments that we've had this year. I asked my team earlier this week, or actually yesterday, it feels like it was quite a while ago, what their accomplishments, what they viewed as their accomplishments for this year. And I wanted to run through those. Jeremy's up first, board and community relations. Probably the most challenging thing for Jeremy this year, probably the most challenging anybody on cabinet. He had to onboard a new director of schools. From what I hear, that's evidently a difficult process. But I think he's done a pretty decent job. You don't have to worry, I get lots of feedback from the team when I make a mistake or do something wrong. They share. Increasing communication with parents in the community through Facebook and other formats. I think I want to commend Jeremy and Kelly. They've done a tremendous job of pushing out information in multiple formats. I will say it's interesting. The thing I think I am most known for now is not director of schools, it's for Snow Angels. So I hear that almost every week now. But they've done a tremendous job of pushing out the accomplishments. And I think it's been, you know, if you just think over the last month, we've been recognized for a first in the world pilot with Amazon. We were featured on Nickelodeon. We've got another national publication coming about our math curriculum, and we've got one, I don't want to steal thunder, we've got another national publication in just a little bit. And a lot of that's because Mr. Johnson and Ms. Flood are pushing our district out there to share the good news that's going on in the world. And a project that Mr. Johnson's wanted to work on, Mr. Brown, for many, many years is a new website that works and functions like we want it to in 2024 that will be much better. What's that? Phone friendly. Yeah, cell phone friendly, mobile friendly, but also telling the story to provide better access for parents and students and have the information that's relevant and timely for parents. And we're excited. That'll probably be what, July, August we're looking at. So it's a heavy lift to put everything in the district because you have to have some things that are required legally that are on there, and then other things don't need to be on there. And after having the same website for 14, 15 years, there's quite a bit of information it's just hard to tease out everything that's on there that doesn't need to be on there. And so we're going to work on it'll be a good time. They've been wielding the axe to get rid of a lot of stuff, and it'll be exciting for y'all to be able to see that in a couple months. Finance. Ms. Brown and Mr. Ott, their teams have kind of tagged on Teach Sumner. We're looking at this summer of having up to 75 in a teacher certification cohort. We recently got approved to do CTE and then some 612 certification for parents, or for teachers. And we've had people reach out to us, at least several each week, that are interested in coming to teach for us. Ms. Brown's done a tremendous amount of financial analysis for compensation study, including, even like earlier this afternoon, we were talking about something that we needed to address. So her team has done a great job of analyzing what we're looking at for compensation. Capital projects, bidding, purchasing, and analysis. We have done a lot of capital purchases this year, and Ms. Brown, Mr. Harrison, Mr. Brown, all their teams have done a tremendous amount of work to get that done. I will tell you, the bleachers are in at Hendersonville. The materials have arrived at Portland and Beach. The bathroom that we approved a couple months ago at Portland, the cement's been poured. The brick walls are going up. So I drove by today. It's looking good. We're excited for that. So everything's moving well. There were a lot of things that y'all approved on consent agenda, the painting and some other stuff that we talked about. New whiteboards at Millersville. We'd already approved new whiteboards at Beach Elementary. Y'all, Millersville still had some chalkboards in some rooms. So this is going to be a game changer for Millersville. It's exciting to be able to do those capital projects. And then Ms. Brown's been developing a new budgeting process. You'll see part of that in a few weeks next time we meet. And then also she's working on a process that'll be more continual for us to work with schools and be able to give them more timely budget feedback and advice. All right, health services. These numbers, Ms. Herron put these together. They have a lot to be proud of in health services. Some of these statistics are just staggering. 211,000 clinic visits this school year so far. 161 life-threatening emergencies. 35,000 visits for chronic illnesses like diabetes. They've trained 3,170 students and staff in CPR. If you step back for a minute and think, because our staff knew CPR, we had a student that lived. We recently had, in another department, we had some of our maintenance guys deliver CPR, and they did it really well. We've had one of our faculty members was at a cheer competition, and they didn't have proper medical staffing at this cheer competition, and someone had a sudden cardiac arrest, and they were able to save this person's life. So our training is making a huge impact in saving lives. Screened over 8,000 students for vision and hearing. Helped implement, along with other departments, our language line. Now we have the ability to call in and have translators in virtually every language. Like I had a discipline appeal a few weeks ago, and the mother spoke Arabic, but she was Egyptian, so she spoke a different dialect of Arabic. And the people we had in the district, we actually have an employee in the district, a guidance counselor at Knox Dawes that speaks fluent Arabic, but she speaks a different dialect. So we were able to jump on Language Line, and it worked really well. So that's been a great, I know Ms. Herron, other departments have worked on that as well, Ms. Brown and some others, Ms. Dam. Our 504 team acted as the LEA in 91 meetings. LEA is the person that presides over the meeting. We had, at the end of last year, one of the biggest pain points for our schools in terms of where administrators were spending their time was in 504 and IEP meetings. Ms. Dams made some adjustments to provide support for schools, and then Ms. Herron, the other thing we had is Selena Elmore retired after many years of leading our 504s, and we had a lot of loss of institutional knowledge. So we were able to hire Brandy Ubelhar, a former guidance counselor in Sumner County, and she's been able to go do all the trainings and have been able to train and support 504 teams across the county. They've held 79 coaching sessions in the schools, and they've given principals back 120 hours of time in 7 months. I also wanted to pass out, I couldn't get this on the slide, but Ms. Herron also put together just an overview of what they've been doing in our 504 department. We're really excited about this with 504s and homebound. We're seeing an increase in kids that need to receive homebound services, whether it's for a major surgery, sometimes for anxiety, sometimes for a host of other different conditions, and we've been able to serve those kids very well. And so I'll just share that with you, and it'll give you some talking points and information about what we're doing with 504s. Ms. Herron, did you want to add anything? Okay. All right, human resources. I think, Mr. Ott, I think the last compensation study we'd done was it 1995 or? Yeah. So a long overdue compensation study, and I want to commend Mr. Ott and his team. They pulled together everybody across the central office and worked hard, and not just the central office, but schools and everything else. We got a lot of feedback and put together a great compensation plan. So we're very thankful. Also, if you remember, we spent a lot of time figuring out paid parental leave, and I think we're in a really good place with where we wound up in parental leave, supporting our employees for maternity and paternity leave. We're seeing an increased number of retirees returning to teach on House Bill 2783. That's where teachers can come back and draw 100. Oh, sorry. I clicked it on mine. So House Bill 2783 allows teachers to come back and draw 100% of their salary and 70% of their pension. I'll tell you that when we had budget meetings with principals, Mr. Ott mentioned it to every principal if they said they had someone retired, if you talk to them about House Bill 2783. We're hopeful that next year the legislature will make this permanent or at least extend it, and hopefully also take the retirement part up to 100%. Because the employees that paid this in, they should be able to draw it out. But right now it's great for our pension system because people are technically retired, but they're only drawing 70% of their pension. So we also hope that they will expand it to what we're advocating for is expanding it to beyond the. It's pretty tight right now, pretty narrow. It'd be great if we had more flexibility to be able to include other teachers in that. And then as we mentioned under finance, HR has done a tremendous amount of work with Teach Sumner. When someone comes back and they want to do job embedded, which is, they have a college degree, but they don't have a teaching certificate. There are areas where we can't do our own Teach Sumner yet. Mr. Ott's team works with a host of colleges across the state and country to be able to help them get licensed. The way colleges are set up, each school does something different. So it's a lot of back-end labor on the HR department to get that work done. We're proud of the work that they've done. All right, instruction. Deployed 20,000 iPads along with IT that we'll get to in a minute. Implemented a new math curricula. Really excited about Focus on 5, where we're asking, the amount of data that we have and the amount of information that flows through our principals, our instructional coaches, our teachers is staggering and sometimes overwhelming. So asking teachers and principals and our team here in the central office, Ms. Skinner's team, to focus on 5 schools, 5 principals, 5 teachers. It allows us to have, and if you're in a classroom and you're focusing on 5 kids and you choose those kids wisely, you're going to hit the needs of the entire class. But if you try to hit the needs of 25 or 30 kids, you kind of spin in place. So we're really proud of this and seeing it take effect across our schools. Our instruction team has been out once a month in classroom or in schools whether it's in classroom, whether it's in, they just go and serve, whether it's in the cafeteria, whether it's with bus duty, whether it's in classroom, they're getting out to be the face of the instruction department in the schools. Working on Summer Scholars with other departments. Summer Scholars is a huge lift. It touches every department in the central office, and it does so at the worst possible time of the year for finance and HR. So it requires everybody to work together to make sure our kids have a positive experience in summer programming. That's a big accomplishment each year. And then working with community partners to benefit schools. We've got some really exciting announcements coming up. It's a little early. I'm bad about blurting these things out before it's time. I can't, or some of our community partners and institution partners will get frustrated with me. So you're gonna have to hang up. We've got some really exciting programs and announcements that are coming up in the next few months. All right, maintenance and operations. Andy Brown's team's rolling. They fill thousands and thousands of work orders a year. Everything from plumbing emergencies to roofing to leaks, HVAC going out. How we got Jack Anderson turned around that quickly with HVAC is amazing. Really proud of the work that they did. Mowing. Y'all approved tonight. We got a fantastic bid from Rogers Group to pave the central office parking lot. We've tried to hold off for years and get everything else done first, but we've almost lost families out there, y'all. It's just something we need to do. We're going to try to get a couple more done over the next 2 months if we can. There's a big need out at the beach community. I'd love to get that one knocked out next. And if we can continue to get the pricing that we're getting from Rogers Group on these bids, we'll continue to try to knock them out, because it's we had estimated that it would cost more to do just the bottom parking lot than it costs to do both. So we're very, very appreciative of Rogers Group and for their bid, and look forward to better parking out here at the central office. Technology, significant upgrades to our tech infrastructure. When we first started talking about going one-to-one, we were struggling to meet the needs that we had currently without being one-to-one. And Mr. Brown and his team have deployed the security needs, the camera needs, the all the other needs for that, to deploy 20,000 iPads and to improve camera coverage across the county. And if you haven't known or noticed, this is EdTech. They are celebrities. I like the steely gaze of Mr. Chris Brown right there. Blue Steel. We're going to call Mr. Brown now. But we've ribbed him a little bit about this, along with the other guys. But we're really proud of the work they've done to be recognized nationally. They're also going to be in Toggle magazine in the next couple months, and this is a reflective of the work that they have done. And it's really, whether it's student health protection, protecting our network. One of the things that's coming down the pike is increased phishing and different things like that, and they do a great job of not only getting our kids. We're almost done with testing, and we've had very, very minor complications with online testing. If you remember 7 or 8 years ago, we had everything from dump trucks knocking out the internet to Russian hackers to all kinds of stuff, and this year it's gone very smoothly. The ACT, we've worked well with the ACT because now the ACT is all online. It's been an easy transition, and Chris and his team have done a great job. Transportation, we've got 4 new buses that should roll out this week. For a while we were on an 18-month lead time from the time we paid for buses until we received them. And we've also recruited and hired and trained a whole lot more bus drivers. Pupil services, we've shifted to a more integrated pre-K where we're blending classes together better, more effectively. It's better for our kids. And then, Ms. Dam and her team do tremendous work to stay on top of the needs. Like, compensation is going to be huge for our special ed program because we've got to have more people, and they just aren't out there. They've worked through every angle and every way to try to increase the number of, there's not a group, if you get to work with them, that pour their hearts into taking care of our kids more than they do, and it's hard on them. And so Ms. Dam from our team, or, from us, just thank you to your team for the work that they do. All right, Safe Schools and Student Support. They've done a lot, I just can't tell you about it. But massive update of cameras and safety upgrades throughout the county, and our silent panic alarm system is now in place. It works really well. If you push the buttons, things happen quickly. Yes, we have now thoroughly troubleshot the panic buttons. Yeah. All right, and I don't know if you have any questions about that, but I just wanted to share. A lot of times we get caught in the busyness of our lives and everything, and we will do more about schools. I want us to continue. I think a goal for us next year, as we welcome new board members and everything, is to continue to bring up, like, seeing our cheerleaders tonight, seeing all the other kids that we've honored. It's easy to forget in budgets and everything like that that the decisions that y'all make and the work that we do together pays off in the lives of our kids. And so I'm very thankful for the work that y'all do and the accomplishments that we've been able to share. There are a whole lot more that we couldn't get in there tonight, and not even touching what our schools are doing. Our schools are doing tremendous work as well. We'll try to feature those next month when we look at budget.
All right. Thank you, Dr.
Oh, I'm sorry, one more thing we need to talk about. Summer Scholars. I'm going to kick it to Ms. Skinner to give you an update on Summer Scholars. And I want to give, as she's getting ready to speak, let me tell you this. The state held on to our money for Summer Scholars until last Monday, which gave us 4 days to turn the budget around. So I want to commend, Ms. Skinner, Ms. Dam, Ms. Brown, Ms. Herron, everybody else that worked on it, because it takes a lot, because you're talking about transportation, you're talking about nurses, you're talking about special ed services, you're talking about safety, you're talking about teachers, clerical staff, site leads, everything, to serve thousands of kids. And it took, obviously we had been planning, but you can't tell people what they're going to be making or anything like that, because in years past we weren't as concerned because we built in enough money in ESSER to cover any overages. This year we had the budget tight to make sure we met that, and our teams did a great job. So, Skinner, if you want to share an update.
I also want to give a shout out to Kim Ha, our middle school coordinator. She's worked really hard on this as well. So these are just some hard numbers. We have 9 locations this summer where we'll be serving children. 2,059 elementary students are registered. Out of that 259, 499 of them are third graders. We have 146 middle schoolers. We are employing 235 teachers and 64 classified staff. There is a House bill on the table right now, 2326, which will allow 4th graders to promote to 5th grade the same way 3rd graders promote to 4th grade, which is committing to tutoring and summer programming. It's not passed, but it's up for that. So hopefully we'll have that information soon. And then as far as 3rd graders that are on radar, this includes SPED, EL, gifted, ILPDs, all of the students who scored below the 50th percentile. So this is not a number, we have to take some of that out, but this is just that whole date, all 3rd graders, 447 scored below the 50th percentile, but we have not taken out SPED, gifted, ILPDs yet, and we can't correlate that to T and Ready data yet because we don't have it. But that number's down from last year. I think we were a little over 650 last year. So, quick update.
Let's go.
Lancaster.
Going back to the summer scholars, so do we have a spot available for any student that would fall in that category for 3rd grade?
We won't turn away a 3rd grader.
Okay, that's. I had a parent ask me, and I say, I'm pretty sure. Like they were like, I didn't even know about this. They were.
We haven't ever turned away a student for summer scholars to this point, and our budget will support our numbers this year. I think we're good.
Okay, that's the main thing I want to ask. Thanks.
All right, that's all I've got.
All right, thank you, Dr. Langford. Next item on the agenda is new business, discussion and interaction regarding the request to rename facilities at White House High School. Is there a motion?
Motion to approve.
Motion approved by Mr. Wise, second by Mr. Gregory. Saw him first. Any discussion? Ms. Andrews.
Can we know what facility and who it's being named after?
You can after Thursday, but right now they're trying really, really hard to keep this a secret. But if you'll trust me, I've known this person for many years. This person, notice how I'm not gendering the person, this person has been at White House High School for a long time, is well deserving of the recognition that this person, it's kind of hard to do too, that this person will receive. So I would just appreciate your confidence and approving it.
Thank you, Ms. Wise. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Seeing none, motion carries. Next item, discussion and interaction regarding the release of retainage for HHS science labs. Is there a motion? Motion approved by Mr. Lancaster, second by Mr. Gregory. Any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Seeing none, motion carries. Next item, discussion and interaction regarding revision to policy 4.403, library materials upon first reading. Is there a motion?
Motion to approve.
Motion approved by Mr. Wise, second by Mr. Daniels. Ms. Hawkins.
I'll wait until after the vote.
Ms. Andrews.
Yes, I just want to say thank you to Ms. Hawkins for the diligence that you have put forth with this policy. I know that you've had lots of time with the librarians and really working hard to craft it so that everyone's on the same page and that it follows kind of the procedures. I will say that the portion, let me see, under the appeals process, item number 6.
And I have hard copies. Does anybody need a hard copy?
Sure.
Sorry.
You're fine. I'll wait till you pass this out if we need to.
Jeremy made these a long time ago.
Thank you.
Yeah, I'll take it.
Thank you, ma'am.
So under the appeals process, item number 6, it states that there's no appeal to the board by the complainant after the decision of the materials review committee. Any board member may make a motion at any time at a regular voting session of the board to appeal the decision. I do feel like that's inconsistent with the discussion that we have had. We voted to remove the ability for a board member to make the complaint unless their student is the student that is at the school in which the material rests. And so I feel like by having this part of the policy, it just kind of circumvents and puts that back in there. My understanding for why this was even brought through the textbook commission at the state was to give parents and those associated the right for an appeal and what that process is. So this, again, it's the parent, employee, or student at the school where the material is located. They make that request of complaint to librarian and principal. Then they can have a discussion. If they don't like it, then they can appeal. They do a review committee. It gets presented to the principal. If that's, they're not happy with that information, then they can appeal it to the board. The board makes a decision, and then if they aren't happy with that, then it goes to the state. That would be, if we leave 6 in there, it would be similar to if we make a decision as the board, the state being able to come in and trying to overturn what we said. And that's not part of the appeal process. So I'm going to move to amend this by striking number 6 under appeals.
Motion's been made to strike number 6 of the appeals. Is there a second? There's no second. Motion fails by lack of a second. Ms. Andrews. Mr. Lancaster?
Yes, sorry. I'm still trying to find where you were, but anyway. Under review process, number 8. So I had to read this a couple of times before it kicked in what you were saying here, and I just want to kind of add a line to, I guess, specifies, because somebody might be as dumb as I am when they read it, but it says, in this communication, the principal shall specify the name and author of the challenge material, as well as the USPS mailing address and the email address. Anyway, the first couple times I read that, I thought it was saying name the challenger. And I know that's not what you're saying, but can we just add a line, just because I feel like, you know, throughout this whole process, we have different things for different people, and I just want to make a motion to amend to add the complainant shall remain anonymous throughout the process, because that's one thing that we've always kind of had, you know, on our different parts of it. So that's my amended motion. Just so that it kind of clears that up to me, because when I read it, it just reads, or at least the first couple of times that I read it. So.
Motion's been made. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Mr. Lacy. Any discussion? Boy, they turned my mic up. Ms. Andrews.
I don't know that we can technically do that. Can we? Like, I know at the school level, then it can be confidential, but if there's an appeal to the board, at that time, does it then become public record on who is making the appeal? So I don't have a problem with it being at the school, like when the principal is sending out this information and saying, hey, someone has challenged this material, give us your feedback.
So if I said, okay, instead of should remain anonymous throughout the review, that's kind of what the process I was referring to, the review process, but I see what you're saying. If it comes to the board, that would be under the appeals process.
And I don't, now I may be wrong, Mr. President, I may have to help, but I don't know if, while it's at the school, if it would fall under the Information Act. Like if that does it become open record when it comes to us? And I don't know that. Is it open record at the school so somebody can request who it is, or does it only become as far as identifying the person with the complaint?
The same applies whether it's at this board level or at the school level.
Okay.
Unless there's an exception under the Public Records Act, it would be public record subject to disclosure.
So if a parent makes a complaint at the school and the principal sends out communication that says, hey, there's been a complaint that's been filed and we are looking for your feedback, and a parent goes to the principal and says, I want to know who made that complaint, the principal then is required to disclose who that person is?
Yes, if a proper public records request is made, the proper procedure followed, I'm not aware right now of any exception that would prevent that disclosure from happening.
Thank you, Ms. Andrews. In light of that, Mr. Lancaster, I don't know that we can do that.
Well, the biggest thing, especially on the review committee, and that's kind of where this came from, because I've had parents that were like, you know, was asked to be on the review committee and was always afraid of being outed as being on the review committee. So we were like, okay, we'll strike, or we'll try to keep that anonymous.
The review committee people being anonymous, or the complainant being anonymous?
Both. And that's why we originally on our prior one was like, okay, well, the review committee is anonymous, so is the complainant. You know, but if we're saying we can't do that, I mean, except for a FOIA, I just don't want it to be where we are emailing out who's on the committee, who's challenging it, you know, because you could have a legitimate reason to challenge a material, and I just don't want that to be a barrier to voice your objection to something that is a state law requirement. You know, a state law provides you an option. That's my hope. Question. And I understand that you're always going to have a FOIA potential that leaks it or whatever, but I don't know how to word that so that we can keep it. But I think anybody that's on a review, anybody that volunteers their time as a parent to be on a review committee, or, you know, the complainant that does it, should every available option to remain anonymous should be granted until it's to the point where, hey, legally we gotta tell them who you are. So that's mine.
Well, we have, based on our attorney counsel, we have an illegal motion on the floor. Would you like to withdraw that motion?
Point of order, Mr. Chairman, how is it an illegal motion? Now, I'm saying that, point of clarification, how is it an illegal motion?
Well, we can't do that.
Okay.
If someone requested to go through the proper procedure, then you can't leave them.
It's not illegal procedurally, it's
procedure.
He's saying there's a FOIA request that will reveal.
So his motion is to make
Right.
sure everybody remains anonymous, and if somebody files a public records request, then we can't do what he's asking to do. Can't legally do what he's asking to do. So basically, an illegal motion at this point.
Okay. Yeah, Mr. Chairman, if I may clarify, I think
Yes.
this board could say it shall remain confidential subject to state law.
That's
Something like
that's why I was
that,
trying to
which means-
reword it before we. I
Right,
went
which
through
means
it.
the principal or they could keep it confidential, but of course, if a public records request comes in, it'd be evaluated. And unless there's an exception, the person's name would be disclosed at that time.
Now, with that counsel, if you'd like to reword it,
I would like to reword it to what he.
then and it's okay with the second, then we'll move forward with that.
Yeah, reword it to have Mr. Prestel sit there. I knew there was a way to do it legally. I just couldn't.
Yeah, could you give us our motion again, please?
Let me take a shot at it. The complainant shall remain confidential, subject to state law.
The complainant and review committee members, I think would be the way I would go, because I want both sides to be able to be confidential. Because I've had parents that have reached out and said, "Hey, I was asked to serve on this committee, and I don't want to do it if there's a chance that I'm going to be known who I am." Okay.
Yes, sir.
Motion's been changed. You okay with the second? Second's okay with it? Ms. Andrews?
Just quick question too. What number are we putting that under the review process? What?
I put it under 8, yeah, because it talked about the principal notifying the community and email and communication. That's the reason I put it there.
Would you be okay if we put it under 9 instead, just because it's talking about the appointment of the review committee at that point? 8 is really discussing more about sending out communication to parents that there has been a challenge made.
That's fine. I have no objection to that, as long as it's in there.
So we put it under 9 instead of.
Okay with that? Okay. All right. Ms. Hawkins, do you want to speak, or you just leaving your light on?
I was wanting to make a motion, but we already have a motion on the floor.
Okay.
So I was going to explain why number 8 is there, and it's because we took student participation off in my version, this new version, except for students who are 18 years or older. So, but the review committee will be open to presentations by students, either in person, by email, or by videotape. And so I added this clause to notify the community, the school community, that this book has been challenged, so that they can have the opportunity to comment or to make a presentation to the review committee to tell what they want or what they think. And so as a result, the school community, whether it's parents, teachers, students, will have an opportunity, regardless of age, to have a voice in that. They just will not be part of the review committee or be able to vote. So that's why I added that clause. And I just also wanted to say that I added the number 6, Ms. Andrews, I added that because I feel like the board needs to be 100% in control. If for some reason a review committee decides to remove a book and it puts us in a state where we are unconstitutional or that we can be held liable, the school board is ultimately, the buck stops here. We need to have the power to do something if we need to, and that's why that one is there. Thank you.
We need to, thank you, I'm sorry I missed it, went over you, but we need to get back to this motion now.
Yes.
I think we just need to vote. We got a motion.
We got a motion and a second, we're in discussion. Do you have something else to say, or we're gonna go to Mr. King? Mr. King.
Yeah, so I just have a question about this section, and I'm just curious, when a parent has a complaint about a teacher, does the principal send that out to the entire school community? The answer is no. Okay, great, thanks. So I'm just wondering, why is this such a special, why does this get a special thing? We have a complaint, and we're gonna, it says shall notify. That means, that compels the principal that he has to do this. He's gonna send this out to the entire community. And I just, I don't know.
Point of order, hold that thought. We're still voting on the amendment, correct?
Yes.
Which is
Well,
not that.
I'm about to make an amendment to the amendment. So
His amendment about it being confidential, the review people could be confidential? Because that's what's on the floor right
right,
now.
I'm thinking of making an amendment to the amendment.
Okay.
Well, I don't understand why that's a problem.
Continue, Mr. King.
All right, so my point is, it just seems like this section, it's inconsistent with the rest, any other complaint that might come before a principal. But on this complaint, we're forcing him to send out communication, and I understand, wanting to get other feedback from other people. It just seems like this is intended to stack resistance against the challenge and to possibly even out the challenger. I understand that we talked about this, adding this amendment here shall remain confidential to state law. There's ways to find out who did it. I just think this is risky. I'm going to make an amendment to the amendment that we strike all of Section 8.
Motion's been made to strike Section 8. Is there a second? Seeing none, motion fails by lack of a second. We're back to Mr. Lancaster's motion. You turn your light off, Mr. King.
Thank you.
Thank you. So we're back to Mr. Lancaster's motion. Mr. Johnson, would you state it again, please?
Yes, sir. We are motioning to amend the language under item number 9. The complainant and review committee members shall remain confidential, subject to state law.
All right. No further discussion, looks like. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Seeing none, motion carries. We're back to the main motion now, the policy itself. Discussion on it. Ms. Hawkins.
I would like to make a motion to remove the prior motion that's on the floor, according to Attorney Presnell, that was under consideration on November 14th, I believe it was, before we ended our meeting without voting on the main motion. So that was the amended policy at that time that was being considered. I make a motion to remove that completely, replace it with this policy, and including the amendment that Mr. Lancaster has just provided regarding the complainant and the committee members being confidential, subject to state law.
Second.
Motion's been made and second. Mr. Lacy?
Thank you, Chair. Would that make null and void what we just amended on this current policy that we're already working on? Or it wouldn't affect that?
And we're still working on this one, right? Go ahead.
I'm saying this that is
Okay.
presented today with the one amendment we just voted on, I'm making the motion to remove the policy that we were discussing back in November from consideration, replacing it with this motion for this policy with the amendment that we just made regarding confidentiality.
Let me bring us to order a little bit. I think you're well founded, but just a little bit out of order. This one's on the floor to be passed or not. We need to vote on this. If this passes, then you can make your motion and replace it at that time.
It was my understanding that we had to address the policy that was on the floor in November. Is that right, Mr. Presnell? We had to address that first.
That motion was deferred. This board should address it. In my mind, it does not matter in which order, but certainly they will have to be reconciled because you're going to have two different policies up for vote.
So that's what I'm trying to do. Pursuant to our discussion prior, a couple of months ago regarding this, it's my understanding that that was the way that we would move forward, is to remove, it's as if we were picking up right where we left off in November, and that I'm making a motion that all those that we've done, I'm wanting to throw that out and to provide this amended policy, which essentially encompasses all the requests and amendments that were made in those meetings to bring it into agreement with the board, and then also including the amendment that was just made. So in order to be procedurally correct, it's my understanding that we have to dismiss the prior main motion policy in order to address this one.
I think under advice of counsel, we could do it either way. So you've got the motion on the floor. Without objection, we'll move forward with that one and then come back to this one. Everybody okay with that?
So my motion is to remove, I'm making a motion to replace,
Eliminate the number.
eliminate the old one, put this one in its place. That's just one motion.
Okay. All right, the motion's been made. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Second.
Hold on, point of order, Mr. Chairman. I don't know if we approved the minutes. We approved the agenda. The agenda had this policy on it. I tried to, at the beginning of the meeting, to eliminate this and to replace it with November 14th. That was voted down in favor of this, and so to me, that action nullified the previous. I don't know at this point. I'm very confused. I don't know which one we're supposed to be amending now. It just. I'm just very confused. It sounds like we're supposed to be working on this one, and
We are. We have amended this one, and it stands as amended.
but we can't have two policies in consideration at the same time. That's out of order. And that's what. But we already started working on this one, and if that other one was in consideration, you can't have both of them. And it sounds like that one was not dismissed, so it was still in consideration. And we're back to the point I was making earlier. This is out of order. You cannot have a policy that we tabled and agreed to bring back and then just set it aside and start amending another policy. That other policy was, you can't have two policies germane to the same topic going at the same time, and that's what we have going on right here. So that's why I think this has not been planned accordingly.
Mr. Keith,
I don't know.
if you don't want two policies on at the same time, then that's what she's trying to do, is eliminate one and move to this one. So
Okay, I understand that,
to
but I thought
eliminate-
that's what we did when we approved the agenda. But okay.
Yeah, so she's eliminating that one, getting it out of the way, and then we'll move to this one as amended. Motion's been made and seconded.
Is that, I'm sorry, Mr. Chairman, can
Ms. King.
I be recognized again? I'm sorry. Are we just completely throwing out the previous policies completely?
The November 14th to eliminate.
We're throwing that out, including all the amendments.
Her motion is to eliminate the November 14th policy.
Okay, so here's what my fear is. What's going to happen is we're going to throw those out. We're going to throw out those amendments. That language is going to get added back in, and there's going to be a waiving of a second reading. You mark my words. That's what's going to happen.
Ms. Hawkins.
Okay, so the amendments that were in the meeting in November are in here.
Not if you throw them out. Not if you throw out.
But
I'm sorry, I'm out of turn.
No, I'm not. I'm throwing out the old consideration. We talked about amending to allow a complainant to be a board member. That's in this policy. We talked about to strike language allowing a student to serve on the material reviews committee. That's out. It's not in here. Mr. Lancaster made a motion to amend the appeals process to allow the board to remove challenge material from all schools, not just the school where the challenge material is located. That's in this one. So I'm not throwing out any amendments that we made in November.
They've been rolled to the new policy.
They've been incorporated. That's like I said, this policy has taken into consideration all the amendments, all the desires of this board. I'm not trying to do anything shady. I'm trying to get this policy passed. I was going to make this motion first off, but another amendment or a motion came before me, and I couldn't make a motion when there was already a motion on the floor. So that my intent was to make a motion initially before anything else happened, so that we would move straight into this before discussing this policy. So I was not able to speak before an amendment to this policy had already started because I was not in line in the queue. So there was no intent to have two policies on the floor at the same time. My intent was to remove all the old policy conversation, replace it with this one, which has all the amendments we made in the old one. And if you see anything that's not there, or that's not supposed to be there, that we didn't discuss in November, let me know, because I made every effort to meet this board's desires as per the amendments that we passed in November.
Ms. Hawkins, Mr. Daniels.
Yeah, procedurally, I'm a little confused too. So, and I guess this question is for Mr. Presnell. So we have a policy that we're reviewing right now. We had a previous version of the policy that was tabled in a previous meeting. While discussing a motion for revised policy, and this has been revised, can you then, in the middle of that discussion, bring up a previous policy that's been tabled in order to deal with that to align? It just seems like in my mind, what we would need to do would, if we want to get rid of one to make sure we're in alignment, we would have to have that other policy on the agenda somewhere, whether that's approving this, having them both under old business at the next board meeting, dealing with the old one first, whether it's voting it down, whatever, and then discussing this policy. I'm not sure, I'm confused about how you can bring up another policy and just say, whatever that language is, it got tabled, we want to do away with it. To me, it's that policy, if it's tabled, it doesn't exist right now. It's just sitting over here and has nothing to do with what we're discussing now.
My understanding is that motion was deferred, and it was to adopt the November 14 draft, because that motion was never voted on. So it was deferred. That motion needs to be dealt with by this board. And so one way to do it is to bring it up, vote it down, or pass it. Another way is to, as I understand what Ms. Hawkins is trying to accomplish, is to substitute the policy that was on tonight's agenda for the November, which is the February 20th version, for the November 14th version, and then vote on it that way, which would take care of the motion that was deferred. That's my understanding.
Which is what her motion is doing.
Which is what her motion is doing.
And so procedurally, that falls in line with what you think is acceptable?
Yes.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
Thank you, James. Ms. Hawkins?
I'd like to also make a motion to waive second reading.
You just want to add that to the motion that you got now? So,
How many motions we got going right now?
we've just got the one.
The one is to waive second reading now?
I added that to my.
We just now added that one. We're still dealing with
I
that.
can
We haven't,
state the
you haven't let me proceed yet, so.
I think that needs to be split out. That's my opinion.
So we can add to a motion, we've done it before, if it's okay with the second, and then we discuss it. So the motion's been made to eliminate the November 14th policy and add it, combine it into this one, and to waive second reading now. And who seconded the motion? I forgot.
Mr. Lancaster's amendment in this.
Yes, including Mr. Lancaster's amendment. We already voted on that amendment, so that don't need to be brought up again. We passed that amendment.
I just want to make sure that what I'm proposing be considered includes Mr. Lancaster's amendment.
It's there. It's there. Is that correct, Mr. Johnson?
Yes.
Yeah.
My question is, I'm sorry.
Ms. Andrews was first.
Okay. So, I'm not sure what the language is, but I think procedurally that the motion should be that upon approval of this version as amended, will replace all previous considered versions. I disagree with including waiving second reading. I feel like there is confusion. I understand, how we're doing this, but I think it would be appropriate to say, okay, this is how it is. It was amended tonight. Get it all in writing, get it all clear for us to bring back next meeting and have a once for all vote on it, just to clarify with that. So I do disagree with the waiving of the second reading. I know I understand the premise of it. I know we've beat the horse, and it's been, I feel like, on every single agenda for the last year and a half. But with the language and so forth, and because we are using this, if we vote to approve it, if it passes tonight, then it does take the precedent over everything. I feel like that clears, and then it can be, kind of be, I don't know, fresh, or just, there's not amendments, there's like this, unless there is something that is brought forth for the state or something that we need to amend, then I think next month we don't amend it, we approve it, and be done with it.
Thank you, Ms. Andrews. Mr. Lancaster. Oh, I'm sorry. Well, Mr. Lancaster, I think, was first.
Yeah, I would also like to actually be done discussing this one before we do the replace, and also would be against waiving second reading simply because I do want our attorney to make sure that what we have presented or what we vote on follows the state procedure or the state law, and that we have checked all the boxes on that, and give us, to the second reading time, and he can say, hey, yep, you're good, that's good. But that's all.
Thank you, Mr. Lancaster. Mr. Lacy.
I was just wondering, Chairman, maybe the director can help us. How did this or I guess how could this come to us tonight to vote on, but it wasn't on our last study session? Does it not require being on a study session?
Been on the study session several times.
But this is a new policy, updated new policy.
Yeah, it's been out there.
February 20th, this version, first thing, February 20th.
Yeah, so, yeah, it's been there. Mr. King?
It has not, because item 8 was added on the first time I saw this, and it was not added. It was added Friday when the agenda was posted. So this is a different brand new policy, brand new, back to the drawing board, brand new policy. It's under new business, not old business. So this is not the same policy. So it has not been in a study session. I'm just clarifying, okay? I mean, we've got, it's, I don't know.
Mr. Daniels.
Yeah, can we get clarification on the motion real quick? Because I know we had a motion and then there was a request to waive second reading, and I know Ms. Andrews disagrees with that, and I agree with Ms. Andrews. But I just want to make sure that I understand what the current motion is.
The current motion that's on the floor is to eliminate the November 14th and roll it into this policy. Ms. Hawkins then added to waive second reading. That has not been approved yet. She added that on there. That has to, she wanted to do that. Whoever seconded it has to approve that. And who? Mr. Wise.
Me?
Yes.
Well, then, no, I don't approve of.
Then
eliminate second
that's
reading.
where you didn't let me get through my procedure. So, yeah, so as we go through the procedure, that would have come off anyway.
Then, you know, procedurally, I still think it's a little clunky the way the motion is written. So I'm voting no to the amendment, and then I would entertain Ms. Andrews' motion as soon as that fails, assuming it would fail. I think that's a little bit more clear in the way that we addressed the previous amendment.
You have me confused. I didn't know there was a.
Yeah, no, I think the way, she stated a little bit differently. Yes. So
She did not make an amendment. She did not.
No, she did not. But the way it was phrased, I believe, is procedurally a little cleaner than what we're trying to do right now. Because her suggestion was that basically, and I'll let you kind of rephrase it.
Upon approval of the policy as amended, if approved, would replace all previous versions.
Correct. I think that's a whole lot cleaner than the current replace. I know it kind of does the same thing, but procedurally, that to me is a whole lot cleaner. So
If Ms. Hawkins would like to change her motion to that, and Mr. Wise is okay with that as a second, we can discuss that.
Yes, I'm good.
okay.
Okay, all right, so now the motion is the way Ms. Andrews placed it. You have that, Mr. Johnson?
I'm in the queue.
Once more from the top, please.
Start getting towards that too.
Ms. Andrews, could you
Yeah.
restate the motion?
Sure. That upon approval of the proposed policy as amended, will replace all previous versions.
All right, we got that.
And we want to remove.
So we would remove Ms. Hawkins' proposed language and substitute that with.
We're gonna say that it was Ms. Hawkins' language.
Okay, so what we've changed it to is instead of, cause what we had was remove prior motion to table the November 14th, 2023 version of the policy and replace with currently proposed policy, which we're referring to as the February 20th version, as amended. And we want to replace that and just say upon approval of proposed policy as amended, we'll replace all previous versions.
Yeah.
Okay.
That's correct.
I'm with you now.
All right, and the second was okay with that? Mr. Wise?
Yeah.
Okay, now we're in discussion, Mr. King, we're discussing the changed motion.
Well, what I'm about to say is relevant to that because we're swapping. The motion is to swap, is to exchange these policies. So what I'm going to say is, you know, goes back to what I was talking about at the beginning of the meeting tonight. Is that, and I made this, my motion at the beginning of the meeting was to remove item 3, and then I had said we can bring back the previous policy, the November 14th policy under old business or unfinished business. We could have brought that back, and then at that point, that there could have been an exchange at that point to substitute this policy for that one. But what's ended up happening was we've got two policies on the floor. They're both in consideration. That is out of order.
They're not both in
They are,
consideration, Mr. King.
they're both in play.
Okay, I'll let you continue, but that's not correct, but go ahead.
So what I'm saying is the right thing to do would have been to have the original November 14th policy under unfinished business, and then an amendment or a motion could have been made to substitute it. My opinion is that this ended up with two policies going under consideration. So I think that's out of order, but at this point, I don't know what we can do about it, except to, I could object to the question and just toss the whole item out. I can make an amendment to the motion, I guess. It's all right, because that's not going to do any good. Thanks.
Thank you, Mr. King. Ms. Hawkins?
I contacted Mr. Presnell and had a discussion with him regarding this matter and asked him, how shall I proceed? If we had not ended our meeting in November, the next motion I could have made would have been to remove the prior, everything we've just talked about, and replace it with this. I could have done that then at that meeting, and if it had been voted upon, it would have been policy. And Mr. Presnell, is my recollection correct?
Yes, meaning to include the November 14 policy.
Yes, I could.
Yes.
At that time, I could have said, I want to remove everything we just talked about, and then do this. I could have done that at that time, but we ended the meeting. We were deferred, and so essentially we're picking up right now where we left off. And now I'm saying it. Let's forget all that. Let's remove everything prior to, and consider this policy, which includes all the amendments that we had made in the other policy. And the reason that the number 8 is included is because I took away students' rights to participate on the review committee, except for those 18 years and older. And I made a vehicle by which the community is notified that there's a challenge, so that they can participate outside of the committee. They can participate by providing input, which we've heard over and over from students and parents. We want a voice. We want to be able to say how we feel about this book. So that's why I added that, is because I took away the student participation on the committee. So this is just allows people to know this is happening. And if you have an opinion, or if you want to say how you feel about it, here's your opportunity to communicate with the committee to have your voice heard. And that's what students want. They want their voice heard. Parents want their voices heard. Teachers and librarians want their voices heard. So that is the reason I put that in there. So I thought by my conversation with Mr. Presnell that I was following the right path to this moment. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Hawkins. Mr. Wise?
You'll get the name right someday.
Yeah.
It's only been 16 years. Come on.
Introduce yourself to me after the meeting, please.
We have a motion on the table that has been seconded. We butchered it. If you don't feel comfortable voting on it, abstain from voting. Let's vote.
All right. Time for the vote. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed?
Abstain.
No. I got one no and one abstention. Did you get those, Mr. Johnson?
Mr. Chairman, what exactly are we voting on? Approval of what I just
We just voted on your motion.
to take everything and replace it with this.
Yes.
Yes.
The way Ms. Andrews.
Yes.
Okay.
We voted on allowing it, if it gets approved, it's going to do that.
So
We'll have
so
to vote
this
on the
this
main
policy is in place now. The other ones have gone away. I think that's what the intent was. So it's not, and we didn't waive second reading, so it's still come back.
Actually, point of clarification, I think actually what we voted on, because it was an amendment, is that we voted to allow that to happen. We still actually have to vote on the motion as itself. So that vote would have been on, are we going to allow that if this, because it says upon it being approved, so we're voting on, so that passed, so now we have to vote on the
Okay.
motion, so
Yes,
that
you're
if it
correct.
gets approved, then that happens. If not, we go back to the other policies.
All right. Mr. Daniels.
Yeah, I just want to say, you know, I appreciate the hard work that Ms. Hawkins has put in this policy. I support the policy. I do think it's been rather clunky the way this all came about. I think procedurally, we could have done things a little bit cleaner. We are where we're at now, and that's why I voted earlier to change the agenda, to remove it from 3 as Mr. King had recommended. So I do support the actual policy. I think that we probably had a lot of discussion on it already, even when we were talking about other amendments. So I think we're ready to vote as well. I don't see any other lights on. Otherwise, I'd
Already motion, Barry.
question.
One thing.
He's not done yet.
I'm sorry.
I'm good.
Okay.
Okay. Mr. Lancaster.
Sorry. Going back to the main motion, one question or on the appeals process number 4. And Ms. Hawkins, I believe you specified this in your explanation, but I may just ask that we amend. It says, if it is determined by the vote of the board that the challenge material is not appropriate for the age maturity levels of the students who have access to it, or is not suitable for and consistent with the educational mission of Sumner County Schools, then the board may vote to make the challenge material unavailable checkout by removal or reclassification to the students at all schools for whom the challenge material is considered inappropriate. That isn't clear to me. And I guess the reason I say that is it seems like you're saying to the students at the school for which the challenge was made. And I think what we originally said was if it gets sent to us, that it's, you know.
That's, I put at all schools. I changed that.
I think it's the for whom the challenge material is considered inappropriate makes it
Right.
seem like.
So if it's inappropriate for 8th grade, but it's appropriate for 9 through 12, then that would be the case in all schools, that it would be taken out of 8th grade, and then it would be consistently applied throughout all schools.
Okay.
It wouldn't just be removed if it's being reclassified to a different age group. Then that would be reclassified to a different age group at all schools in the county.
Okay. As long as we, like I say, as long as we.
That was my intent, was to change it to.
I think when I read it as to the students at all schools for whom the challenge. To the students for whom all. Can we move at all? If we moved at all schools to after is considered inappropriate, would that clear it up any better? This is more of a language thing. To the students for whom the challenge library material is considered inappropriate at all schools. I don't know if that makes sense. And I think it's, I mean, like I say, when I read it, that's the way I read it. And that doesn't mean anything, because.
Well, it's for whom the challenge library material is considered inappropriate by the board. I mean, would that help? I mean, this is the board determining all of this. So it is considered inappropriate. That would be the board's consideration of inappropriateness.
So yeah, if you just remove if you remove a word to the students, I think say by removal or reclassification at all schools for whom the challenge library materials is considered inappropriate.
But when I say to the students, like again, if it's a reclassification, well, I mean,
Because that's all who's checking out anyway, students, correct?
So you're saying,
So if you just remove the word.
then the board
to
may
the
vote to make the challenge material unavailable for checkout by removal or reclassification at all schools for whom the challenged library material is considered inappropriate.
That makes it more clear to me.
To remove
Yeah.
to the students?
Yes. Because then it says at all schools. It's when you say to the students at all schools that it sounds like, I don't know, it just makes it sound like you're.
Makes your brain crazy.
Yeah, it makes that.
What?
Makes your brain.
Y'all on board, we're all on board, we can decide. I don't see the difference, but if that's the way you all want it, y'all can vote to remove.
As long as the intent is that it's removed from all schools where, that's what I just don't want it to where we get into a pattern where we have a book challenge at White House High School and it comes to the board and we vote that to stay or to go, and then the same books at Portland High School or Hendersonville High School. I mean, once we deem it inappropriate, I just.
At all schools. I don't know how I can be more clear on that. It's at all schools. It is removed or reclassified. And before, it was at the school where the library, the challenged book was physically located. I took that out and I put at all schools because it was the will of this board to do that, to make sure when we decide that a book needs to be removed or reclassified, then we want that to be removed or reclassified in all schools in the county.
I'm fine with that. Like I said, when I read it, it just when it says that has that for whom, it just seemed like it was saying it's for the considered, the one that's being challenged. But if that's not, the intent, that's fine.
I'm open to revision. I just don't know how I can be more clear.
Mr. Johnson,
Can I take a stab? How about if we added in, let me find the sentence again, at all schools at the grade level for whom the challenge material is considered appropriate. So if you ban it 8th grade down, you ban it 8th grade down. If you say it's removed 7th grade down.
Well, that's what the by removal or by reclassification at all schools. So reclassification is a defined term. It's already defined up there. Reclassification means moving the challenged library material from one age-appropriate category to another age-appropriate category within the school where the challenged library material is physically located. So we're saying you can reclassify at all schools. So I feel like that's already, when I say by removal or reclassification, that's what that's saying, is that it goes to a different age group.
Thank you, Mr. Johnson.
I didn't make an amendment. I just want to make sure that's clear. And
Yes,
that was didn't know if there was a better way to state it than what's presently there, but
Sorry?
I didn't know if there was a better way of stating it.
Well, I'm open to that if somebody wants to.
I'm good. Thank you, Mr. Lancaster. Mr. Brandon, you've been waiting for a while, so.
So I would like to make a motion to add language and amend the policy under review process number 8. The first sentence, which has within 3 days after the appointment of the materials review committee, the principal shall notify his or her school's community by email of the school's usual communication portal that a library material has been challenged. I'd like to add wording right after challenge and provide the challenger's detailed reason for the challenge.
Motion's been made. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Mr. Lacy. Discussion?
I'll give you, if I may, Mr. Chairman.
Mr. Graham.
My reasoning behind that is to coincide with what Ms. Hawkins has expressed, and that is trying to get community feedback. I think they would have a really good starting point if they knew why the book was challenged in the first place.
Thank you, Mr. Graham. All right, voting on the amendment. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Seeing none, motion carries. We're back to the main motion. Mr. King.
Yeah, I want to amend the language that says option of one high school student age 18 years or older in attendance at that school. So this is the section under Materials Review Committee, and it includes language that includes one high school student age 18 years or older. So I want to strike that. I guess for all of us, it's in red. I think it's in red. Is it in red? Yeah. So, and the option of one high school student age 18 years or older in attendance at that school. So I move to strike that from the policy. On, I guess if page 1 at the very bottom, if you're looking at what she handed out.
Got it?
Yes.
So,
Motion's been made. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Mr. Lacy. Discussion? Ms. Andrews? I'm sorry, Mr. Graham was...
Mine on the main.
Okay, if you would cut your light off. Thank you. Ms. Andrews?
Yeah, I'm going to disagree with that because a student that's 18 years or older is technically a legal adult and should be able, just like any other adult, to be able to be a part of that committee. And so I don't know why, if they are a legal adult that could, I mean, at that point legally purchase, I mean, they can vote, they can do lots of things, but they can't be on the library review committee. I disagree with that.
Thank you, Ms. Andrews. Let me understand the motion just for me. So where the language says that an 18-year-old may be on the committee, you're saying you don't want an 18-year-old on the committee, is that?
right, I'm
okay.
striking that language.
All right, all right. That's Mr. King.
Well, I think Mr. Wise
Or Mr. Wise.
was on.
Well, I'd just like to have a compelling reason for striking all of that in red on our paper that was handed out to us. Just give me a compelling reason.
Mr. King.
Okay, so my concern is what happens if they vote to remove a book? And somehow, and here's the thing, and like we discussed earlier, this is a public record. We'll know who was on this committee. This is one of our students, and what if it leaks that they voted to remove a book? And given the treatment of parents that have challenged books, people that have wanted to remove books for various reasons, the hate, the vitriol, the mocking and ridicule, public shaming, being called a Nazi and a fascist. I'm just concerned that that's going to get applied to one of our students. Okay, and we had a board member that said that removing a book for any reason is a violation of the First Amendment. It's authoritarian. It is a lawsuit waiting to happen, and it is fascism. So I think there is an assumption that students are probably, that perhaps it's a little bit of an assumption that they're going to vote to keep this material. But I don't think that's going to be the case. We have to really think about every contingency, and a student may vote to remove a book, and if that becomes public, I think they're at risk. And I don't think we need to put those students at risk. They're still our students. Yes, they're adults, but they're still students in our schools. They're still subject to the same protective measures that we have regarding other students. And now, if that gets out, they removed a book. You know, there are cases where colleges have refused admission for some students based on something they did, something they said on social media that did not correspond with the prevailing social vision, right? And so they were punished, they were turned away. There have been students that have had scholarships revoked, admissions denied, admissions revoked. There have been a host of various types of things that have happened to young people. And I don't think that we need to have one of our students put in that position. I say leave it to the parents, the administrators, the teachers. Let them be the one to handle this. This is too controversial of a subject to get students involved in this. It's just way too controversial. And I have evidence, we have evidence from previous challenges of how those parents who made challenges were treated. And I don't want to see that come down on some of our students. Not only that, what you have here is, and I just don't think it has a really good ring to it. We're going to let 18-year-old students review sexually explicit material to make a determination if it's appropriate for minors. That just does not have, just doesn't sound good to me. You know, someone said removing a book is a lawsuit waiting to happen. What happens if this kid's life is ruined because they banned a book? Maybe they'll turn that on us and bring a lawsuit against us for having this policy, for allowing this. So I just think this is too risky. I think we need to really think hard about, I understand that we want to have student voices and things like that. We just passed, my amendment failed, so they're more than welcome to write an email or send a letter or a video giving their approval or disapproval. I doubt you'll have many disapprovals because of the stigma and just the fact that they'll become a target. So that's my reasoning. I think it's too risky. I think we open ourselves up to legal problems. I don't want that on my conscience that I somehow got some kid got his scholarship revoked because he's a book banner. Thanks.
Mr. King, Mr. Wise.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I tend to agree with a lot of what Mr. King has said. And I've said it numerous times sitting in this chair that we're the adults. Yes, in the legal system, 18 is an adult. However, they're an adult in age. They're not necessarily an adult in experience and or knowledge. And I know we've had students come up to this microphone over here and compel us to let them have a voice. And I think of the other side of this coin, if I were on a review committee and there was an 18-year-old female student on that committee, I don't feel the freedom to speak like I would if that student were not on that committee. Therefore, I think it will hinder the process by having a student on the review committee. I think it will hinder the process in that I know I personally would not voice my thoughts as freely as if the student were not on there. So I'm going to agree with Mr. King that I think that statement should be removed. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Wise. Mr. Gregory? Mr. Gregory?
I'm thinking, we can what if every situation in the world. And we usually come back to where we started from. And I personally agree that 18-year-olds should be on the committee because if they are old enough to go into the armed forces and to go to college, to graduate from high school probably, and hopefully they've been taught right from wrong at home, they're old enough to be on the committee. That's my opinion.
Right. Thank you, Mr. Gregory. Mr. Daniels?
Yeah, I just, I agree with Mr. King and Mr. Wise. I know the idea behind the language was because we wanted to allow our students, 18 years old, if they wanted to voice an opinion on a book, to be able to share that feedback. But I think in number 8, that does allow that. if they choose to voice their opinion, whether that's through written communication, whether that's through a videotape, whatever way they want to respond and share their opinions on that book, that allows them to do that. The only difference is it doesn't allow them to vote. And I do agree that I think there may be some discussions that may be more important for parents and teachers in the school to have. So I agree with Mr. Wise, Mr. King.
Mr. Daniels, Mr. Graham?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Yeah, at first glance, I read and I thought, 18, old enough to die for your country, old enough to vote. Those are two huge responsibilities. I didn't take into account at all, in my mind, what Mr. King said, and so I appreciate that foresight. I have an 18-year-old son, and I know that he's been given a hard time just because I sit on the school board, and so I can only imagine the magnitude of the pressure that an 18-year-old would have in this decision. I agree with Mr. Daniels that it does become redundant because we do have it already in the policy. I just wanted to say thank you for this discussion, and I too agree that it should be striked.
Mr. Graham, Ms. Andrews?
Yeah, I just want to, reiterate that the verbiage on there says the option of one high school student. It's not a requirement, but it is optional. And I think that we have to take into consideration, I know a lot of times we, continuously we're hearing repeated, well, we don't want them to be on there with sexually explicit material. We do realize that books and materials can be challenged for other reasons. That there's not a sole reason of the only way a book's getting challenged is through sexually explicit materials. There could be a multitude of reasons on why somebody might challenge it. I think we also need to realize that our students are growing up in a different world than what we grew up in. And to have their perspective and for them to be able to share, depending upon what the situation is, depending upon, the content, maybe it's cultural, maybe it's religious, there's a multitude of reasons. And I think to be able to have the vast, we have multitude of languages and cultures within our district. And so to say, hey, we want to hear your perspective on this and to be able to converse, not just submit a video, not just submit written, but to have that, but then to also trust our principals and the review committees when they are deciding that is this a time when we need a student on there or not? Because it is not a requirement, but we're going to let our students, they can be their own adults. They can separate from their family. They can go get their own apartment. They can be living on their own. They can go to a rated R movie. They can serve our country. They can vote. They can get a credit card. By George, they can't review a library book. Again, we need to make sure, and again, it's option. It's the option of one high school student. It is not required, but I think that there are times that their perspective and their opinion would be invaluable, and it would be beneficial for the dialogue.
Thank you, Ms. Andrews. Mr. Lacy?
I believe back when we challenged, or the Lawn Boy was challenged, I believe there was a minor at Hendersonville that was on a review committee. And I believe our policy at that time didn't specify anything about a student being allowed to be on the review committee. Am I correct on that?
It was Perks of the Wallflower.
Was it Perks of the Wallflower? Would Mr. King consider changing it to no student should be on the review committee? To assure that, because I believe at that time students were not allowed per our policy, but yet the student was still on the review committee. But it wasn't specified that students couldn't be on the review committee. Because if you just remove it and take it out, they could still add somebody. They did that with Perks of the Wallflower.
Thank you, Mr. Lacy. Mr. Lancaster?
I guess on Mr. Lacy's point, at that time, I don't think we even had a material review committee spelled out, so I think if we spell out who specifically can be, I think that does the same thing. Just, you know, looking at it, I originally kind of was indifferent, you know, if it's 18 or older, but listening to some of the arguments, I have somewhat changed my mind on that. And Ms. Andrews said that we are living in a different world, and I agree. We are living in a different world, one in which there's no room for understanding or error, you know, for a lot of kids, for the, you know, for difference of opinion. I mean, you can turn the news on right now and see that playing out. And as Mr. Presnell said, you know, if we can't protect the identity of the people on the committee, I could envision issues where we have, and like I said, it might be a book that has nothing to do with sexual material. It could be a book that's purely on religious basis, that was deemed immaterial, inappropriate. You know, there's just too many. And if it's a student that's 18, well, then they would fall under a FOIA because they're an adult. That's where there's too many possible issues there that it's just, like you say, it's a different age that kids are growing up in now. So.
Thank you, Ms. Lancaster. All right, seeing no further discussion, we are voting on the amendment to remove the line in question. A yes vote is to remove the line. A no vote is to leave it on there. So all in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? No. No. The motion carries. We are back to the main motion on the policy itself. Mr. Green.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'd like to add language, but I don't know where, and I certainly appreciate any input. But I'd like to add language that a copy of this policy be given to both the complainant and everyone on the review committee at the beginning, because now that we have the language that they're anonymous by state law, I think we should disclose the full policy to them, and they can do their own research of what that means. So I don't, like I said, I don't know where to add that, and I don't know if Ms. Hawkins wants to maybe come up with something, or Mr. Johnson, but I just think that for the sake of disclosure, there should be language in this policy that requires this policy be given to the complainant and all the members of the review committee, since there is a possibility from Freedom of Information Act that their names can be disclosed.
So you don't have a motion at this point?
I make a motion for help.
Mr. Lancaster.
So I think that language is in review process under number 2, where it says the librarian shall inform the complainant of the review process. And I think if what you're asking is to make sure that people that are on the committee know, that would just maybe be under step 9 if we add that.
That's actually where I have it written. I just have librarian shall inform the complainant of the review process and make no commitments. We need to make it more grammatically correct, and provide a copy of this policy. So you could say, you know, the complainant of the review process, comma, make no commitments, and, unless you like the Oxford comma, and provide a copy of this policy. So that would be, I would make a motion to amend on number 2 and strike and after review process, add a comma, and then put and provide a copy of this policy. That would be after number 2 on the review process. And then you can also add the same language under number 8 of the review process that says a copy of this policy shall be provided to all members of the review committee. That would be my amendment.
Motion's been made, is there a second?
I'll second.
Second by Mr. Lacy, discussion, Mr. Lancaster? Oh, okay. Mr. Johnson, do we have the language for the motion?
This is 2 and 8.
Yeah.
Should we reference this policy number? I don't know. No.
All right, seeing no other discussion, we're voting on the amendment.
I don't think it would go under 8.
Number 9.
Yeah, number 9. All right, voting on the amendment. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Seeing none, motion carries. Back to the main motion. Seeing no lights, all in favor say aye.
What is the motion, please?
The main motion to adopt this policy. That's the way Ms. Andrews wrote it, I think. Yeah. All right. We voted on it. Everybody said aye.
Can we redo that? I did not vote.
Okay, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Seeing none, motion carries. Next item on the agenda is, put your glasses on, Jim. Discussion and interaction regarding draft policy 4.6001, high school final exam exemptions upon first reading. Is there a motion?
Motion to approve.
Motion approved by Ms. Andrews, second. By Mr. Daniels, discussion.
Chairman, I would like to make a motion to.
I'm sorry, Mr. Graham first. I'll come back to you.
Oh, I was just going to say, procedurally, I think we're in the same conundrum we were in the review materials policy, where we technically have two other policies that we've never voted up or down. So my policy was introduced, I think, in August, and then deferred so that we could get the opinion of our principals, and we ended up getting another policy from our principals, and we never readdressed my policy that I introduced.
I'm trying to think through that. I don't.
The last agenda, there were 3 policies that we looked at regarding exemptions. That's why I was confused about it, because it was yours, the principal's, and Ms. Andrews.
Okay, so Ms. Andrews made the agenda. Mr. President, I need some help.
Give me just a moment. I'm trying to understand. I don't know the history of your motion, Mr. Graham, as well. So,
We'll take about a 90-second recess. Well, let's take about a 5-minute recess, and we'll come back. Pardon? Yeah.
Well, I think all the other ones were on study sessions. I don't know that they were.
So we
Meeting's called back to order. Do we start with you, Mr. President, or where do we start?
Yes, to Mr. Graham's question, the procedure for this policy is different than the prior policy because at the August meeting 2023, there was never a motion on the table to approve that policy. So it was sent to study session and is now back before this board. As I told Mr. Graham, we can vote on that policy that's been presented or a different one or amend the one that's presented. The slate is wide open.
Okay, so as it stands right now, we have Ms. Andrews' policy on the floor with the motion. Do we have a motion and a second on it? So we've got a motion and a second on that. So we have to go through that process, and then if he wants to bring his policy back up after that, is that correct?
He could amend.
He could amend to make it his policy.
He could, correct.
Okay, all right. We have a motion on the floor for the policy that Ms. Andrews brought forth. There has been a second. We're in discussion on that. Ms. Andrews has her light on. Oh, I'm sorry. No, let me go with Mr. Lacy because I told Mr. Lacy we'd start with him.
Yes, sir. I move that we just table August. If we could add all three of them or four of them in together, that we postpone this indefinitely. We had 5 or 6 principals here at our last meeting. 3 of them spoke, and they all begged to do it the way that they choose to do it. As District 6 said, trust our principals and librarians. Our principals said, let us make the choices that's best for our students. They all had different ways they did it, but it all worked for their school. So I would ask the board to vote to just table this indefinitely and allow our principals to do what they feel is best for their students.
Am I understanding your motion to defer is on all?
If that would help the board get everything fixed,
Okay, so
table
motion,
all of them.
Motion is to defer all of the policies pertaining to
the final exam.
The final exam. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Mr. Graham. There is no discussion, so a straight up vote. All in favor say aye.
I think his motion is to postpone indefinitely, which is a motion to basically kill the policy, and it is debatable.
His motion is to defer.
I think he's getting. I think he's
would kill it.
If your motion is to kill all of them and start all over again, then that's not a motion to defer.
I want to leave it the way we have it right now. Our principals make the decision that's best for their schools and their students.
That's not a motion to defer. That's a motion to amend the motion. So if you're wanting to stop the debate on it and move on, your motion would be to defer all the policies pertaining to that subject.
And that would basically kill it?
It doesn't kill it. We can bring it up later on down the line.
Okay, yeah. Well, we can do that anyways, no matter what, right?
Right.
So yes, that's what I would like to do, is to defer it.
My understanding is that the motion is to defer. That is not debatable.
Point of order. There is no motion to defer in Robert's rules. It's called postpone indefinitely, or postpone to a certain time. Postpone indefinitely means that you kill the motion. In other words, what it sounds to me like what he's doing is he is wanting to basically strike all of this policy and not have any policy. Just basically kill all of it.
Motion to defer and table, and the motions you're talking about is all the same thing.
It's not. It's not the same thing.
It is, sir, and I'm not going to argue with you. My ruling is going to stand. He's motioning to defer. He just shook his head. He's motioning to defer or table or postpone. All of the same thing in Robert's Rules of Order. I read it every day. So his idea is to defer, and that is not debatable. So we can turn our lights off for a minute or two. All in favor say aye.
Aye. Aye.
All opposed?
No.
Got one no. All right, motion carries to defer, so this defers indefinitely until it's brought back up. So that ends the discussion on that tonight. Next item on the agenda.
I don't think they understood what they were voting.
Well, I've asked him 4 times.
I don't think the other board members understood.
It's already done. I don't know how to undo what we've done. Mr.
But
President,
I can make a motion to reconsider. because, and I appeal the ruling of the chair, because defer is not, it's not what it means. It's not what it means.
It's the same thing.
It's not the same thing.
Robert's Rules
Motion?
of Order uses, we're not gonna debate Robert's Rules of Order tonight, sir.
Okay, well, we're doing it wrong, and that's all I gotta say.
Well,
So,
that'll be fine.
okay.
I think you, never mind. It's-
Could I make a motion to reconsider? Like, I had, like, that went so fast, I had no idea what we were doing. Like, it was just yes or no, and like, half the group didn't even vote, so I'd like to make a motion to reconsider.
Is that possible, Mr. President? Well, you're earning your check tonight.
Yes, we can make a motion to reconsider.
All right, motion's been made to reconsider. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Mr. King. That has discussion.
I have a question
Okay, Mr.
for
Wise.
Ms. Herron or Mr. President. Refresh my memory, please. And what I'm trying to do, reason for the question is to protect our employees, protect our administrators. And I think about the administrators who stated that they show a student present when they're actually not present. They're at, I think I used Sonic, for example. They're at Sonic. And I think I heard Ms. Herron say, if we don't have a policy, we're putting our administrators out to dry legally. Is that kind of pretty much close to anywhere near what you said?
I don't think I said it about that. About that came up during some of the principal's presentation.
Okay.
The present or not present. I
Okay.
didn't speak on that.
Okay, let me ask you this. If the school system, Sumner County school system, the board does not have a policy concerning exam exemptions, are we putting our administrators in jeopardy legally?
I think that should come from Mr. Presnell.
Mr. President, we should pass that buck.
I'm sorry, Mr. Wise, will you repeat the question, please?
I don't know if I can. If the board does not have a policy addressing exam exemptions, are we then, by the system, the school system not having a policy system-wide, are we putting our school administrators in jeopardy legally?
Well, that's difficult to answer as presented, because there's so many variables that would go into that answer. It would depend on each individual circumstance, what the decisions were, who they affected, various factors. So it's difficult to answer. If there is a policy, one question that may arise would be, is it on its face somehow discriminatory or affecting one group over another? I don't see that any of the policies proposed do that. So I think you should feel comfortable from a policy-wide perspective. But if there's no policy, decisions of administrators would be evaluated as they are in other situations, how students and employees are treated. So it's an individual decision based on individual facts.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Wise. We are in discussion, in case everybody forgot, on a reconsideration of the motion to table or defer or whatever you'd like to call it. Ms. Hawkins.
Tell me if I'm out of order by asking this question. It's my recollection, Ms. Herron, that our last discussion of this was that there were some there were lawsuits where one student was treated differently than another by the same system as far as absences, and I believe it was due to illness, and they considered that their absences, even though they had good grades, that their absences were discriminatory. Some were allowed, some weren't, and I don't know if it was by the same principal or for some reason there was some discretion as to consistency, or indiscretion, I guess.
I think that there were some OCR complaints that Mr. Presnell can probably speak on better than me. My concern was the OCR complaints were, the OCR sided with the school systems because they applied it equally without discretion. So they applied it equally to everyone. So that was my concern, and I gave those to Mr. Presnell.
So they had a policy whereby all the principals and all the schools followed the same rules. And that's what saved the school system from liability, was because they had, a principal couldn't just say, well, okay, you can be exempt, you know.
That was my concern reading those, and so I gave those to him. So I would be interested to hear his take on that.
Yeah, the policies, generally speaking, in that one OCR complaint, I believe it was from 2015, was similar in a general standpoint, meaning there were certain criteria for being able to be exempt from taking final exams. Absences were one of them, grades were one of them, as I recall. But the question in that complaint was that a student with a disability was, that this policy disparately impacted students with disabilities because of disabilities that may not be able to, they would necessarily have more absences. The Office of Civil Rights there, in that particular case, ruled that there was no violation, that the policy was facially neutral, there was no disparate impact, and dismissed the complaint.
So it's my interpretation that having a consistent policy district-wide would help the school board as far as, or the Sumner County schools, from liability for if we just left it to one principal or each principal's discretion at each school, there could be opening up the Sumner County schools to liability.
I was trying to answer some of that in response to Mr. Wise's question as well. So in my mind, the question can be broken down into two subcategories. One is, would a policy adopted by this board somehow violate federal law, particularly any kind of discriminatory law? In my view, these policies, all of them as presented, would not do that. The second subcategory is, what about individual decisions made at the school level? As I told Mr. Wise, in my view, those are all very fact dependent. Are they treating one group of students different than another group? So we'd have to, those are very fact dependent.
All right, we're still on the reconsideration motion of Mr. Lacy's motion. Mr. Lacy.
Yeah, you know, we don't have a board policy, I don't think, that tells our principals how they can punish or reprimand students. I get each principal kind of does things differently. Like, I guess if they, do we have that, Dr. Langford? Like, if kids are fighting, each school has to do it a certain, we do?
We have a behavior policy. There's some parameters within there that principals operate, because it'd almost be like what Mr. Presnell said. You know, like, for instance, most principals, there's a fight, they're going to suspend you for 3 days, but if it crosses a certain threshold, there's going to be a higher level of punishment. But there are board policies that level out different types of behavior and punishment.
Well, see, that happened at one of my middle school, and that student was not suspended. But yeah, that's another question. I believe we give our principals the authority to kind of make their own decisions in, I guess, in the punishment the kids receive. I don't see how this would be any different. I would please ask you to consider what our principals want in this before you reconsider, please.
Let me further try to describe what we are attempting to do. We have a motion and a second to reconsider deferring, tabling, or postponing Mr. Lacy's or the policy, and we're discussing everything but. So we need to vote on whether we're going to reconsider that vote. And if we vote to reconsider it, then the vote comes up again and everybody gets a chance to vote on it. because apparently some people didn't understand what they were voting on. So we're reversing and going back to the motion that Mr. Lacy had made, but we got to get there first. So, Mr. Daniel.
Yeah, just to clarify, the reason I made the motion to reconsider is we were asked to vote yea or nay, and it happened so quickly. I never voted. And so I would like to have the opportunity to vote, and I would request that as we reconsider that we do it by roll call. That way it's
Right.
clear who's voting which way. I just felt like it was rushed and not everyone had the ability to have their voice heard. Thank you.
Point well taken. Our vote should be right now to reconsider that. And if we vote yes to reconsider it, then we go back and we vote on Mr. Lacy. If we vote no, Mr. Lacy's vote stands. So is everybody ready to vote? All right, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed?
No.
2 noes. Mr. Gregory, was that a no from you? Did you vote no, sir? Okay, so we had 2 noes. Okay, so we have voted to rescind or to reconsider the motion to defer, postpone, delay, how you want to call it. So, Mr. Lacy.
So we're back, I guess, doing my motion again.
We're back to your motion again. We're going to do it all over again.
Like I said, I just asked, we had 3 principals get up and speak, and they basically begged that they could do what they felt best for their students. So I would ask you to please consider that. Because some of our schools, this is going to dramatically change how their final exemption policy will be for their students. If it's working, why change it? Thank you.
He's making his motion. So he's made his motion. You gave your reason for the motion. It did not become a speech. So he's made his motion to defer, postpone, delay. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Mr. Graham. Mr. King.
Point of clarification. You can call it what you want, but are we voting to kill this and just not? It's done. Is that what this is?
Is that your?
Yes, sir.
Done. Never come back again.
Yes, sir.
Of course, you can always bring it back again.
I mean, that means a year from now, I'm sure if somebody wanted to bring it back, they could.
All right. So do we understand the motion?
Yeah, that's postponed indefinitely in Robert's rules. I'm just telling you.
Okay. Thank you, sir. Appreciate that. Are you done, Ms. Andrews?
Is there discussion on defer?
Pardon?
Is there discussion on defer?
No, it's not.
Okay, go ahead.
All right, we're voting to defer.
Can we please do that by roll call?
Roll call vote, Mr. Daniels. A yes vote is we're deferring it.
Yeah, yes vote is defer, no vote is no defer. Ms. Hayes?
No.
Mr. Lancaster?
Yes.
Ms. Andrews?
No.
Mr. King?
Yes.
Ms. Hawkins?
No.
Mr. Daniels?
No.
Mr. Wise?
Yes.
Mr. Graham?
Yes.
Mr. Gregory?
Yes.
Mr. Lacy?
Yes.
Chairman Brewer?
Yes.
All right, motion carries.
All right, we have deferred the motion. We're done with it tonight. Somebody can bring it back up at a later date, but we're done with it tonight. Unfinished business, discussion and or action regarding amendments to the general purpose budget. Is there a
Motion to approve. Second.
Approved by everywhere. I didn't see who got it.
We're ready to go.
Ted? Motion approved by, is motion by Mr. Wise, second by Mr. Lacy. Any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Seeing none, motion carries. Discussion interaction, the next item on the
Motion
agenda.
approved. Second.
Well, I got Mr. Gregory second, so Mr. Lancaster's motion to approve, and your light is on. You have discussion?
No.
All right, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Seeing none, motion carries. Next item on the agenda is discussion of study session items. Mr. Lancaster.
I'd like to make a motion that we suspend the rules at our now May 14th study session so that we can have ample time to discuss the budget.
You have to go by, under no circumstances can it go past 10 o'clock.
Right. Well, I hope not, but.
Well, you need to make that motion.
And by no circumstances it go past 10 o'clock.
All right, motion has been made to suspend the rules for the May 14th study session to allow the meeting to go to 10 o'clock. Second by Mr. Graham. Any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed?
Opposed.
All
I
right.
don't understand the reason. We don't know how long it's gonna take.
We can't vote on it at the study session, so we gotta do it tonight.
Okay, go ahead.
All right.
I still don't know.
All right, so, okay. Motion carries. Mr. Johnson, study session items.
We will be discussing the budget and we will be discussing public safety. And then, you know, if the board, we never really kind of got to the end of whether we wanted to just do it 6 and then 7, or whether you guys wanted to do it earlier in the day. A couple of y'all mentioned it, which we have no preference as a staff. That's just some direction if you guys want to give it to us.
All right. What was I gonna say? Next item on the agenda is communication from board members. You want to start tonight, Ms. Hayes?
I had the great pleasure of attending, which I know many of us have been attending our school plays, Matilda, Harrisonville High School. This cast and crew did a phenomenal job. Mr. Griffiths and KB, they make the dynamic duo of theater directors at Harrisonville High School. It was just such talent. And I know we've got it all over the county. Just incredibly talented students, dedicated, disciplined. There's a lot of lines to memorize and songs to sing and choreography. They did a great job. I was able to attend, I think I may have even mentioned about the care cabinet, but the Family Resource Center Advisory Council, that room was filled with so many people who have such hearts for those who are in need. Kathy has the Sumner County Food Resources for Sumner County. So all of the contact information from all of these different nonprofits, they're all working together to look out for our kids. Food insecurities, clothing. Mr. Wise, I took a whole big bag of peanut butter. But just what a team. And I would love at some point just to hear again, have Kathy hear again from them and the work that they do, because they are working hard to even broaden their reach and having as many people aware and working together as a team. It was a great meeting. I was able to attend Why Old Places Matter. And this was put on by the Preservation Foundation of Sumner County. And Thompson Mays was the most incredible speaker. So interesting. All of the historic nonprofit executive people were there with tables around. You could look and you could ask questions. They all do such great work. And Rockcastle being one of those that opens their historic space up for our students to attend as field trips. And many of our historic sites do that in helping to educate our children on the history, the rich history here in Sumner County. It was a great afternoon. They also acknowledged, they had students who did artwork, and they acknowledged, they had students who had the writing contest, and so they were awarded for those that won. And I just love how that they work with our schools and our students to educate them. And also just a prayer. I know we've already had, Station Camp's already had it, but just prayers for safety with our proms going on. Our kids are just make smart decisions, and that they are safe, and but have a good time. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Hayes. Mr. Lancaster?
Yeah, just real quick, it's Bus Driver Appreciation Day, so I want to always give a tremendous appreciation and thanks to all the men and women that do that on a daily basis for our school system. And tomorrow is Administrative Assistant Day. So also thanks to all of our front office personnel, bookkeepers, and attendance clerks that do that for us. Other than that, that's all I got.
Thank you, Mr. Lancaster. Ms. Andrews?
Yeah, first I want to just remind everybody, tomorrow the community is asking for those to wear green in remembrance of Sebastian on the 26th, which I think is Friday. I got my days right, Thursday, Friday. Will be 2 months since he disappeared, and so just to keep his hope alive, the community is being asked to wear green and continue to pray for them and the family, and that he is found. I also want to say thank you for the discussion, obviously on the policy that I brought forward. I respect the board's opinion on that. I think it was a great discussion. But I do want to read something that was sent to me, one, because I asked the person if I could read it, and I think that it's prudent to hear. Unfortunately, I wasn't given the option to read it, so I'm going to read it now during my comments. And this is a former student of Beach High School. I think graduated within like the last 5 years. I wanted to reach out and share that I agree the new exam policy is an excellent compromise for students. You are advocating for them by challenging them to be better. I struggled my first year of college so much because I had never needed to study until I went to college. That was a very great awakening. I also never took any finals until college. I had no idea how to study for a regular exam, let alone a cumulative one. Now I'm in grad school. I feel like I finally know how to study, but I wish I had established these habits and known what works for me sooner. Continues, it's a great initiative. This person is in grad school for nursing, fantastic young lady, and I think I'm hopeful that in the future that our board will consider that and consider what we are actually asking of our students, and that instead of setting the bar low for our students, we need to set it high.
Thank you, Ms. Andrews. Mr. King, we've got a few minutes if somebody will make a motion to extend.
I don't have a comment.
Okay. All right. Mr. Daniels?
Yeah, I just want to say, it's been exciting to see all the great things going on in our county. And I'd written down that, we have a lot of great academics, athletes, and artists. With a lot of the programs going on in our theater departments, from Matilda to Urinetown. It's phenomenal. It's phenomenal what the students in our county are capable of. We've got a lot of spring sports finishing up. We've got spring football. My son's playing middle school football. He got tackled for the first time. He bounced back up, so that was always a positive. And then we've had some great success across all the academics with great scores in ACTs and SATs, and getting ready for college scholarships and graduation and all that kind of coming up. It's just an exciting time, and so many great things are going on in our county. And I'm just reminded that behind all of those, there are teachers that are involved, whether they're in the classroom, whether they're on the fields with our students, whether they're giving their time to get stages ready, whether that's through building sets, working with the students, backstage, whatever it is. We've got a great team, and thank you to our staff and the people they put in place to help lead our children. They're doing a phenomenal job, so thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Daniels. Mr. Wise, we have a few minutes left.
Thank you all for the response to the peanut butter challenge. She has enough peanut butter, I think, to last at least maybe through the rest of the school year. And bus drivers, certainly today, we do appreciate you. Thank you.
Graham?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I have a list of names I want to read. Can I make a motion to
No.
extend? It'll just be a few minutes.
We have to get a motion, second discussion, and you got to get it before 9 o'clock.
Can I make a motion to extend?
Motion's been made to extend. Is there a second? Second by Mr. Daniels. Discussion? Seeing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed?
Seeing none, motion carries. Now go ahead, Mr. Grant.
I appreciate my fellow board members. I did not want to rush through this list because the nominations for the Spotlight Awards came out today, and I spent all day, every 30 minutes, watching these nominations on Instagram. I actually didn't have Instagram until today. I had to sign up just to be able to watch. So the Spotlight Awards are basically like the Tony Awards for musical theater that we've recognized already tonight. And there were 40 Middle Tennessee schools that were adjudicated, over 1,000 students. And I just kind of wanted to recognize our Sumner County students who've received nominations. And I'll go through the list, but I don't want to rush it. So there was nominations for All-Star Cast students, Jamison Davis and Talon Mako of Gallatin, Genevieve Blimker and Madison Hickey of Hendersonville High School, Elijah Newton and Savannah Lockwood of Liberty Creek, and Bella Gonzalez and Will Johnson of Station Camp. These are all high schools. Nomination for Student Designer, Clara Williams of Station Camp. Nomination for Stage Manager, Rowan Cawley of Station Camp. Nominees for the Founders Award, Jamison Davis at Gallatin High School. The Applause Award, Station Camp High School got a nomination for that. Once again, this is out of 40 schools who participated. And there's only a handful of nominations in each category. Crowd Pleaser Pairing, Gallatin High School. Outstanding Choreography, Gallatin High School. Outstanding Dancer, Julian Cannon at Gallatin High School. All-Star Student Crew, Ava Wright and Callie Odom at Gallatin High School. Trudy Vinay and Emily Reed at Hendersonville High School. Auburn Bean and Kaya Beeman at Liberty Creek High School. Rowan Cawley and Olive Tonzavon at Station Camp High School. Outstanding Small Ensemble, Gallatin High School and Liberty Creek High School. Outstanding Ensemble Performer, Addison McKinney at Hendersonville High School. Outstanding Comedic Performer, Talon Mako at Gallatin High School and Karis Richardson at Liberty Creek High School. Outstanding Dramatic Performer, Andy Garcia at Gallatin High School and Genevieve Blimker at Hendersonville High School. And Outstanding Lead Performer, Jamison Davis and Olivia Ring at Gallatin High School. Genevieve Blimker, Madison Hickey, and Rose Drinkwork at Hendersonville High School. Landon Brown and Noah Evans at Liberty Creek High School, and Sophie Fortune at Station Camp High School. If you see them or know them, give them a big congratulations. This is a huge deal. They're being invited to attend the award ceremony on May 25th at TPAC. It will be a full house.
Thank you, Mr. Graham. Mr. Gregory?
No comment.
Thank you, Mr. Gregory. Mr. Lacy?
I'll just say, like I said, I thank my fellow board members. It's a pleasure to serve with you guys, and I'm thankful for the opportunity to serve District 11. And like I said, I'm just very thankful.
Thank you, Mr. Lacy. I have no comments, so we are adjourned. And we made it before 9 o'clock.